The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 876, Shiny and Soul Calming Tower. Just by releasing a wisp of soul, it is easy to sign a contract with the Shiny and Soul Calming Tower. It is really very convenient. It is under control, but this thing does not come with an instruction manual. How should it be used? Jun Changxiao played with the exquisite little tower in his palm. After thinking about it for a while, he still couldn't find the key points. So he waved his hand, based on his experience, and said, "Go, Shiny and Soul Calming Tower." Plop. The tower fell to the ground without any movement. Jun Changxiao. System. Master is so stupid. At this moment, a light and sweet voice came from the Shiny and Soul Calming Tower, and then a wisp of fluorescence appeared, turning into an illusion of a 5 or 6-year-old girl. The little girl is not tall, with black hair like a waterfall. Her eyes are big and round, and she looks very cute. "Are you a spirit?" Jun Chang smiled. "Yes." The little girl smiled and said, "I'm the spirit of the Shiny and Soul Calming Tower. Master, you can call me Ying Ying." Jun Changxiao hated Ying Ying monsters the most in his previous life. He didn't expect that the spirit of the treasure he had just contracted would be called this name. What should he do? Should he knock it down with one punch? Ying Ying is not a nice name. From now on, I will call you. Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, "Let's call it Araya." The system crashed and said, "This name is similar to the host's dog left." "Okay, master." The spirit of the weapon smiled. System. Such a tacky name was agreed without even considering it. Is it because you have a problem with your brain like the host that you signed the contract so readily? Jun Changxiao said, "How do I use the Shiny and Soul Calming Tower?" "Master." Araya smiled sweetly and said, "The Shiny and Soul Calming Tower has two functions. Which one do you want to hear?" "Both." Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Araya sat down, put her hands on her ankles, and said, "The first function of the Shiny and Soul Calming Tower is to suppress any energy inside, and then slowly purify it, so that it can be used for one's own benefit." "Oh?" Jun Changxiao asked curiously, "Can you be more specific?" Araya said, "Let me put it this way. For example, other people's spiritual energy cannot be absorbed under normal circumstances. If it is stored in the tower, after being suppressed and purified, the owner can directly absorb it." "So powerful?" Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. Using other people's attributes to suppress and purify, and then take it for oneself, isn't it a bit similar to the absorption ability of the Soul Clan? "Of course." Araya said, "The Shiny and Soul Calming Tower cannot be absorbed actively, but can only be absorbed passively, which involves the second function." "Go on." Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Araya paused and said, "The second function is to transform into the final form, either to hit people or to defend. Once it enters the defensive state, it will automatically absorb the energy that is bombarded, and within the tolerable range into the interior for suppression. In this way, the Shiny and Soul Suppressing Tower can be considered offensive and defensive." "That's it." Jun Changxiao was overjoyed and said, "How to transform into the final form?" "You need a formula to activate it," Araya said. Jun Changxiao said, "What is the formula?" "The formula is..." Araya stood up, put her hands on her chest to form a heart shape, and then pushed out and shouted, "Go, my sweetheart." Jun Changxiao's expression suddenly froze. After a while, he collapsed and said, This is the formula." "Yes." Araya laughed. Jun Changxiao sat down cross-legged, put one hand on his chin, and thought, "It's a bit hard to say it out." System. This is not a bit, this is something that any normal man can't do. Jun Changxiao could shout out "Go, my sweetheart" in public, but it was really embarrassing and difficult to imitate a little girl making a heart shape with her hands. "Is this the only formula?" "Only one." "Master, I'm going back." Araya had just finished speaking when she returned to the Shiny and Soul Calming Tower. Jun Changxiao put his hands behind his back and thought, "How about just give it a try?" Ding. The system has entered a temporary dormant state. A grown man made such a shameless move, and the system couldn't stand it. Cough, cough, cough. Jun Changxiao cleared his throat, waved his hand to shoo away the camera that was always pointed at him, and the picture presented on the reader's screen was a void in the space ring. Go, my sweetheart. The voice came over. When the camera adjusted its angle and turned around, Jun Changxiao still stood with his hands behind his back, looking like a martial arts master. A few feet in front of him, a giant tower several dozen feet high appeared, with a faint cloud and mist lingering at the top of the tower, exuding a sacred and inviolable momentum. This is the final form of Shinyuan Zenhan. Very strong. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. As long as we find the right opportunity, we can give the Earth level strongman a hard blow, and he will definitely be unable to take care of himself. Ding. The system restarts. Did you try? Tried. The system crashed and said, how shameless is the host, to do such a shameful thing. Thinking of the action that Eri had just made, if a man did it, it would get goosebumps all over its body, although it had no body. Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his hand, and the Shinyuan soul calming tower became miniature, and then fell on his palm, muttering, the vacuum cleaner still seals the properties absorbed from the main body of Zigan. Suppressing it in the tower should be able to purify it, right? Try it. He took the magic vacuum cleaner and entered the soul calming tower with a thought. This tower has only one floor, and the internal environment is similar to the ethereal space ring. Master. Eri smiled. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, just release the energy. Yes. Eri nodded. Jun Changxiao put down the vacuum cleaner and turned on the dust collector. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A stream of strange attributes flew out like clouds, and then tried to break through the space, but was bounced back fiercely. Snap. Suddenly, the sound of a whip came. Eri held a thin red whip in her hand and said grimly, come here, you are my prisoner. If you dare to run around, you must be punished. Snap, snap, snap. She swung it 3 times in a row and hit the strange attribute. It's strange to say that the energy absorbed from the main body of Zigan has no entity, but every time the whip hits it, you can hear the sound clearly, as if it is a real person. What surprised Jun Changxiao even more was that the strange attributes, which were originally scattered, gradually condensed into a human form after being whipped several times. Although they had no eyes, nose, or face, they curled up in the corner and trembled. It seems that they are afraid of being beaten. Master. Eri said proudly, this is the soul calming whip. Any energy that is hit will be forced to condense into a human form and endure the pain of the whip until it is subdued and all harmful energy is knocked out. Then it can be safely absorbed without worries. Do you want to keep hitting it? Keep hitting it. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly. He finally understood that the so-called suppressing energy in the soul calming tower for purification is actually whipping. Too cruel, too inhumane. That. Jun Changxiao turned around and took 2 steps back in fright. Eria's hand suddenly had 2 burning red candles. Her little face leaned against the fire and smiled grimly. Master, this is my second treasure, the soul calming candle, which can also purify harmful energy. Jun Changxiao's forehead was covered with black lines. A cute little face suddenly turned into a demon, either holding a whip or a candle. It seems that my spirit has some incredible hidden attributes. Click, click, click. The weird attribute huddled in the corner was handcuffed with bracelets and anklets. Eria clapped her hands and said with a harmless smile, Master, leave this thing to me. It will be purified in about 1 or 2 months. Chapter 877. Master, you are so sexy. The weird attribute is equivalent to being locked up in a dungeon, and Eria is the head of the dungeon. As for running away, it is impossible, and you can only accept the result of being purified. Jun Changxiao left with satisfaction. The attribute that controls the mind of Palace Master Z to make him run wild cannot be released, but it is not a solution to put him in a vacuum cleaner. It is also very good to have a place to discipline him properly. If I get beaten up in the future, I will directly use the defensive form, absorb all the external forces into Eria for purification, and then take them for myself. Wouldn't my strength increase? Jun Changxiao's eyes suddenly flashed. The system said, I'm just making a metaphor, and I can't really absorb the energy of others' cultivation. That's right. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, you still have to take the right path, and don't take the side door. System. It made him sound as if cheating all the time to improve is the right way. It was already dawn outside. Crack. Jun Changxiao pushed the door open and walked out. Standing in the courtyard, he stretched his arms, took a breath of fresh air, and said with a look of intoxication, I feel comfortable all over. How could he not feel comfortable? He gained contribution points and a lot of equipment resources, and his realm was also upgraded to the half-step saint level. Speaking of realm, Jun Changxiao was asked to feel it carefully, and found that a special energy the size of a grain of rice appeared out of thin air in his dinshin. This is the power of space. Jun Changxiao relied on the Kyankan talisman to break through to the martial saint level, and the energy he condensed was much purer than this. Strictly speaking, the so-called half-step martial saint is still at the emperor level, but because of the qualification to spy on the power of space, it is specially divided. The half-step saint level is just a preliminary grasp of the power of space, and it is impossible to achieve instant transfer in the true sense, so only by breaking through to the martial saint level can it play a real role. Jun Changxiao said secretly, it has only been 4 or 5 years since he came to Xinjiang continent. He has broken through from the second stage of opening meridians to the half-saint level. This speed is not slow. However, a cook who does not want to be a general is not a good tailor, so Jun Zhang's pursuit is to step into the martial saint, be promoted to the martial emperor, and then make the sect the strongest, and start his own bohemian new life. Ding. A prompt sound came from my ear. After one night, more than 10 sets of the 3-piece set of True Yang combat boots, True Yang battle robes and True Yang masks have been refined. The 3 pieces of equipment are in ancient style, especially the battle robes. Although they have a similar steel chest, they also have red robes and cloaks draped over the body, similar to the armor of generals in ancient times. As for the silver-white True Yang mask, it can only cover the upper half of the face, which is very similar to the mask worn by Louis Ku's version of Yang Guo. In general, combat boots and masks are small items, and the battle robes are big items, because they are full of red outer robes, breastplates, shoulder armor, belts, knee guards, and wrists. Swish. Jun Changxiao put on the 3-piece set of True Yang. The red battle robe like a blood donation half-wrapped the silver armor. He waved the cloak with one hand, and the whole person seemed to have turned into an iron-blooded general who was about to go to war. It's a pity that I don't have the True Yang spear, otherwise it would be even more handsome. When he was refining equipment, he had read the equipment introduction, and learned that combat boots, combat robes and masks were fixed 3-piece sets, and weapons included 3 combinations: high-quality True Yang sword, high-quality True Yang spear, and high-quality True Yang bow. If you change the gun or bow, there will be different effects. This 4-piece set with multiple combinations made Jun Changxiao sure that it was completely prepared for soldiers. After all, guns and bows are more suitable for legionary combat. Master. At this time, Li Luoqiu walked into the yard. However, after seeing Jun Changxiao wearing the True Yang suit, he subconsciously froze in place. The master, who always wore white clothes, suddenly put on the armor and stood proudly in the yard. He really had the demeanor of a general commanding the entire army. Master Li. Jun Changxiao waved his cloak, stepped on the stone bench with his right foot, rested his elbow on his thigh, supported his chin with his hand in an H shape, raised his eyebrows, and said in a deep voice, "Am I handsome? Puchy?" Li Luoqiu covered his mouth and laughed, and said, "Master, you are so sexy." Jun Changxiao put down his legs and said, "What do you want to talk to me about?" Li Luoqiu retracted his smile and said seriously, "Xiaomo sent a message that he will take the opportunity to leave Take's unholy sect and return to the sect to practice in a few days." Jun Changxiao said, "Notify Dudu and let her prepare meals in advance." "That's not necessary." Li Luoqiu smiled and said, "This girl feels the most sorry for Xiaomo who is going undercover. She has prepared a whole set of nourishing food early, waiting for him to come back." "Oh." Jun Changxiao sighed and said, "It's really wrong for me as a disciple. King Guiyang and the others are all practicing in the sect, and their realm is increasing day by day. Only Su Xiaomo went out to be an undercover, and her practice speed in Take's unholy sect is not fast. When he comes back, we have to reward him well. The so-called reward can only be natural spirit stones. After all, he cannot enjoy many martial arts facilities continuously. Notify Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and other core disciples, and ask them to come here. Jun Chang smiled. Yes. When Li Luoqiu withdrew, he asked, Master, your armor should not be simple, right? Do you have a female version? Jun Changxiao took out a set and placed it on the stone table, saying, you can communicate with it with your mind to change the size and style of men and women. Come, I have a ready-made set here, you can wear it first. Li Luoqiu has always been in charge of the purchasing hall and Xiao hall, and she is also vigorously developing external intelligence. In terms of merit, she may not be inferior to Li Qingyang, so she will not be stingy. In the courtyard, Li Fei touched the Zen'ang Tao allocated to him, and said weakly, Master, this armor looks worse than the spirit armor. Put on the 3 pieces, and then take out the Qingyang sword and you will know. Jun Chang smiled. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and the others returned to their respective rooms, and put on their true yang suits. They were well built, and looked very heroic in their battle armor. Second senior brother, Li Fei walked out, adjusting his belt, and then hung up the true yang sword, saying, it's quite comfortable to wear, but there's no change. I haven't changed either. Xiao Zuji didn't feel anything different, but felt that the cloak behind him was a bit of a hindrance, so he simply rolled it up and casually put it on his shoulders. Not long after, Yi Xingchen also came out. Although it was Painiu's body, it had the soul of Emperor Yi after all, and after years of physical tempering, wearing the Zen'ang suit was like a god descending from heaven. Junior brother Yi, where is your mask? Humph, this kind of woman stuff will only embarrass a man. Li Qingyang said, the sect master is waiting in the yard, let's go over. After a while, everyone lined up neatly in the courtyard. Not bad, not bad. Jun Chang smiled and nodded with satisfaction. Sect master. Li Fei scratched his head and said, we all put it on, but there is no change. Are you sure you all put it on? Yes. Where is the mask? Ah. Li Fei then remembered that there was still a mask, so he took it out from his waist and said, Sect master, are you wearing it on your face like this? Jun Chang smiled and said, not bad. Li Fei was about to put it on, and suddenly a heavy momentum came from the left. Xiao Zuji put on the mask first, and after releasing his aura a little, he felt that his strength had been significantly improved, so he said in surprise, Master, I feel stronger. Li Qingyang also put on the mask and said excitedly, after putting on the mask, I feel that my strength has increased by at least 10% or 20%. Pa. Li Fei didn't think about it anymore, and put the mask on his face. Sure enough, as the second brother and Xiao junior brother said, he felt an improvement after releasing his cultivation, and not only his strength, but his legs in combat boots were also lighter than before. Not only does it increase strength, but it also increases speed. Li Fei said in surprise. Long Xiang, Shan Qi, Yang Yuhua and others put on masks one after another, and after confirming that their strength had been increased, they were excited. This mask is too magical. Is it a treasure? Jun Changxiao explained. Combat boots, armor, mask, and Qingyang sword are called the 4 sets of Zen'ang. Only when they are equipped at the same time, the speed, defense, and strength will be greatly increased. Oh my god. This is too awesome. Shan Qi, Long Xiang, Song Zuantao and others were shocked. Wearing 4 pieces of equipment to improve overall strength completely overturned their understanding of martial arts. The Zen'ang 4-piece set not only has an amplification effect, but in fact, any single wear can provide a good improvement. Combat boots can increase foot speed, armor can increase defense, and masks are nothing more than embellishments and pretense. Li Qingyang and others wearing the Zen'ang set are equivalent to wearing 4 pieces of top quality equipment, which is equivalent to our MB warriors who have charged money. Master, Yi Xingchen said, disciple will leave for a while. Yeah. Jun Chang smiled and nodded. Yi Xingchen left silently, left the courtyard, and hurried to his residence, took out the mask that he had thrown in the trash can, put it on his face without feeling dirty, and felt that his strength in all aspects had increased to varying degrees. He was shocked and said, it's amazing, it's incredible. Chapter 878 I'm good at relationships. The appearance of the true Yang set greatly enriched the equipment library of the disciples. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, if this kind of equipment can be mass produced and equipped to the war cavalry hall, it will definitely be awesome. With this thought, he stood up and went to the rainy hall. Master Li. Jun Changxiao walked in and said, notify the branch office in Bimozhao and ask them to contact Master Feng. The voice stopped abruptly because Li Luoqiu walked out of the inner hall. She had changed into a brand new true Yang set. The feminine armor wrapped her body, making her look particularly graceful. A pair of silver boots covered her legs, making them look particularly slender. Master, do I look good? Li Luoqiu stopped in front of him and turned around. The red cloak swept across Jun Gaosheng's face, and the fragrance filled the air. Even if this woman was wearing similar armor, she still couldn't suppress her charming and seductive temperament. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changxiao praised. It was definitely to appreciate her beauty from an appreciative perspective, without any other distracting thoughts. Li Luoqiu sat down, poured tea for the sect master, and said with a smile, what do you want to talk to me about? Jun Changxiao took out a form and put it on the table, saying, notify the Bimozhao branch and ask sect master Feng and others to transport more of the ores listed above. He would not go to these trivial matters in person and could just leave it to the disciples. Yes. Li Luoqiu took it and smiled. This kind of clothing should be more suitable for Lu Kai and Qian. Jun Changxiao said, she doesn't like red. Li Luoqiu blinked and smiled meaningfully. The sect master knows a lot about the eldest disciple, even that she doesn't like red. Li Qingyang and the others know it too. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. The first batch of disciples who entered the sect knew that Lu Kai and Qian didn't like red, but after so many years, they may have forgotten or ignored it. As the leader of a sect, sect master Jun naturally has to remember the preferences of his disciples. Ding. After returning to the study, the reminder sounded again. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and took out the newly refined steel wings. Although this equipment is named steel, the pair of wings seem to be transparent, and it is difficult to find without careful observation. It is normal. The steel straight man is also a mortal body, not really made of steel. Try it. The mind communicated with it, and the wings flew up and placed behind him, and then completely disappeared. Not bad. Jun Chang smiled. In the Xingqiu continent, you can step on flying swords and fly with treasures, but having a pair of wings is ostentatious, and it is actually quite good to hide them. Puff, puff. The slight sound of flapping wings came. Jun Chang smiled and flew up, locked onto the peak of the back mountain, and flew out. After reaching the destination, he said, the flight speed has increased a lot, but it is still a big gap with the mechanical armed wings. It is also good to equip disciples who have broken through the martial emperor. At least in the fight with the enemy, you can rely on speed to gain the upper hand or retreat better. Although the mechanical armed wings are cool, they are too expensive and are destined not to be equipped to disciples in large quantities. The steel wings only need or to be refined, which is very suitable for large-scale equipment. The disciples are wearing the true Yang set and the wings that increase the flying speed. Their fighting power is definitely strong. Jun Changxiao rubbed his hands and said, let's go to the plain battlefield and fight him till the sky is dark. In the hall, Jiangzi and the Ning brothers and others got the true Yang set and the iron wings. After testing the effect, they were all ecstatic. With their current realm, it is a little difficult to break through the small grade, and they can only rely on equipment for external blessing. By the way, Jun Changxiao took out the newly refined medium grade body shaping pill and medium grade soul shaping pill and said, one for each person. He had already taken these two pills first, and his body and soul were significantly improved, and his strength was further improved. Because the pills are limited, Jun Changxiao temporarily gave them to the elders, the hall master, and core disciples such as Li Qingyang. As for the subsequent refined ones, they will be distributed to the disciples in order, so that they can get double sublimation in their body and soul. A few days later, Su Xiaomo, who has restored her original appearance, returned to the eternal ancient sect, and was warmly welcomed by his fellow disciples. especially Li Fei, who gave him a big hug and said, "Senior brother Su, I miss you so much. Get lost." Suzaomo pushed him away and hurried to the cafeteria, saying sadly, "Dudu, hurry up and make something delicious for my brother." Coming. Liu Wanshi walked out of the kitchen and snapped her fingers. Yahui and Ahui came in with all kinds of dishes, and in a short time, they filled a large table. This was specially prepared for her brother, and some of the dishes were not even eaten by Jun Gaosheng. Suzaomo didn't care about anything else, and just took the chopsticks, and started to eat it in no time. As she ate, tears flowed down her face, and she grinned and choked. "It's 100 times better than the food in Takeso Unholy Sect. No, or 1,000 times better. Brother, you are almost starving to the point of being skin and bones." Liu Wanshi said with great distress. After Suzaomo had eaten and drunk enough, he came to the main hall and bowed, saying, "Disciple Suzaomo, I pay my respects to the sect master." Jun Changxiao came down, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Thank you for your hard work during this period. For the sect master." Suzaomo shouted, "No matter how hard or tired I am, it doesn't matter." Jun Changxiao threw a ring and said, "There are 50,000 natural spirit stones in it." 50,000? Suzaomo's eyes widened. So many spirit stones are definitely a huge sum of money. Even the elders of Takeso Unholy Sect may not be able to take it out easily. You can't neglect your practice when you are undercover. Takeso Unholy Sect certainly has the martial arts resources to train disciples, but Suzaomo is now nothing more than an outer sect. If he wants to make any substantial breakthroughs, he can only secretly rely on natural spirit stones to make up for it. "Thank you, sect master," Suzaomo said. Jun Changxiao said, "Is that disciple named Zai still pestering you?" Suzaomo scratched his head and said, "He comes to me every now and then to do tasks." Jun Changxiao put his hands behind his back and said, "I'm good at emotional matters. If you have any difficulties, just tell me." Suzaomo's eyes widened. At any time, he believed what the master said, but he was full of doubts about emotional matters. "Of course." Jun Changxiao said again, "Old Wei is not inferior to me in terms of emotions. You can also ask him for advice." When he said this, his face was not red, and he was not out of breath. "Yes," Suzaomo said loudly. "Go, make up for the wasted months, as soon as possible." "Yes." Suzaomo retreated. However, he did not go to practice, but went into the medicine hall to find Old Wei. It was not until 2 hours of communication that he suddenly understood and was enlightened, and went to the back mountain, as if he had seen the blue sky after clearing the clouds. Suzaomo returned to Wangozan this time for 2 purposes. One was to eat the food cooked by Liu Wanshi, and the other was to ask Wei Lao for advice on emotional matters. So, Wei Qingfeng not only manages a medicine field and the medicine hall, but also occasionally plays a role of an emotional expert and teaches the disciples. He can teach anyone except Jun Gaosheng. Chapter 879 Entering the plain battlefield again. In order to make up for the time Suzaomo lost in cultivation while undercover, Jun Changxiao gave him a lot of natural spirit stones. This treatment was not comparable to Li Qingyang and others. As for the true Yang set, the middle grade body shaping pill and soul shaping pill, they were naturally indispensable, and finally 2 surge talismans were given. Although the surge talisman could not be used for the time being, as long as he entered the peak martial king level, it was equivalent to having 2 opportunities to become a martial emperor, which was convenient for saving his life when necessary. Of course, Sect Master Jun was still considering the opportunity to play a play for his disciples as Old Man Junshin. How to play and when to play are very particular, but the key point is that the appearance must be stylish, and it must be sparking and lightning all the way, so as to shock the Takeso Unholy Sect and make them pay more attention to Suzaomo. This needs to be planned carefully, Jun Changxiao said secretly. After Suzaomo consulted with Elder Wei about emotional problems, he focused on cultivation. Because his own realm was stagnant, and he had distanced himself from his fellow disciples, he certainly could not go to the plain battlefield, not to mention that he did not have much time after leaving the Takeso Unholy Sect. A few days later, After going through the training tower, the secret realm of life and death, and the secret realm of time and space, he came to the main hall to say goodbye and said, "Master, I'm going back." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Be careful." Yes. In front of the mountain gate, all the disciples saw Suzume off. Liu Wan, she wiped her tears and waved her hand, saying, "Brother, if you don't have enough dry food, you can go back to the sect to make up for it." This time she made a lot of snacks, which can be kept fresh for a while in the space ring. "Thank you, junior sister." Walking to the foot of the mountain, Suzume turned around and waved to the master and fellow disciples. After leaving Southwest Yangzhou, she took the magic mask and resumed her identity as Sujintang. Although she had been undercover in Taixu and Shenzhen for a year, it was nothing more than a pretense. Only in the Wanguzan could she find the feeling of home. So in order to go home as soon as possible and complete the master's instructions, she must climb up faster. "Master, Liu Wan," she worriedly said, "Brother Su won't be exposed. What if he is discovered? Will he be arrested and tortured?" Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "Girl, can't you think of something auspicious?" "Of course. We should also think carefully about this kind of thing. In any emergency, we must focus on protecting the safety of the disciples." After sending Suzume away, Jun Changxiao clapped his hands and said, "It's time to get down to business." "What business?" "Go to the plain battlefield to cause trouble." Trampling. 11 core disciples, including Lu Qian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji, Yi Xingchen, Li Fei, Shan Qi, He Wudi, Long Xiang, Yang Yuhe, Ling Yuangsu, and Song Zuanzhao, stopped at the entrance of the plain battlefield. Zhao Han can't go for the time being, because he hasn't reached the peak level of Sword King. There is a difference between the sword and the martial arts. It is not enough to just improve the minor grade. Of course, as long as you comprehend the profound sword and enter the Sword Emperor, your combat effectiveness must be stronger than your fellow disciples who practice martial arts. Except for the eldest disciple, Li Qingyang, and others all put on the true Yang suit, just like generals who are ready to go to the front line for support at any time. Jiangzi, the Ning brothers, the elder, Dingxing Wang, and Gongsun Hao hasted in front of the 10 disciples. At present, the 6 people are the real high-level combat power of the eternal ancient sect. As for Elder Wei, although his strength has recovered, he is still managing the medicinal fields behind the scenes. Zilin Demon King and Baekyo King are also here. These 2 beasts are comparable to the saint level and are definitely at the level of golden thugs. As for whether they can beat the earth-named strongman civilly, it depends on them and Dingxing Wang. Swish. Not long after, Jun Changxiao came over. Xia Longlong and Xiao Marxen followed behind their master. The 2 still disliked each other and glared at each other all the way. Their eyes were sore. They stopped in front of the teleportation gate of the extraterritorial battlefield. Jun Changxiao said solemnly, "The plain battlefield is extremely dangerous. You must take it seriously and never underestimate the enemy." "Yes." Everyone shouted. "Okay." Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers and said, "Let's go." Swish. Li Qingyang was the first to enter the streamer portal. When he heard the prompt sound of "the realm does not match and you cannot enter," he crushed the surge's talisman given by the sect master. After testing, the entrance level has reached the Emperor level, meeting the minimum entry requirements. The transmission device is being activated. Loading 10%, loading 30%, loading 100%, transmission. Swish. Li Qingyang disappeared out of thin air. Sure enough, Jun Chang smiled and said, "You can sneak in with the surge symbol." Xiao Zuji and Li Fei, who did not reach the Emperor level, crushed the surge symbol and were transmitted in order. Their blood burned during the process and they seemed a little nervous. How terrifying is the plain battlefield that can make the master injured and unconscious. Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. The sky is grey and the earth is blood red. A strong aura of killing is rippling in the air. This is the plain battlefield, a sure field where only killing and being killed exist. In the stronghold representing the Starfall continent, which is only a few dozen square meters, the flags are flying in the wind, which is a bit desolate. Damn it. Where did that guy go? In the sky outside the stronghold, 20 to 30 warriors in uniform are suspended, with a faint anger on their faces. They are from the Red Sea continent. The first person Jun Changxiao killed in the plain battlefield came from this plane. Brother, a warrior said in a deep voice, will that guy be killed by others? If he was killed, there should be a hint. The middle-aged man in the lead frowned. It's strange. How can the plane of the Starfall continent appear in the plain battlefield out of thin air, and how can there be only one person? Others are also puzzled. According to the battlefield regulations, at least 2,000 people must be sent to enter this place, and the stronghold given is also relatively limited. The territory of the Starfall continent below is only the size of a room. Will it wash off the red light and hide secretly in a corner of the battlefield? Someone speculated. At present, this is the only possibility. The crowd did not dwell too much on why the Xinjiang continent stronghold appeared, but had been looking for Jun Changxiao for more than half a year. Getting the first blood was secondary. The primary thing was to avenge the dead companions. Swish, swish. Suddenly, dozens of streams of light flew in from a distance. These people came from Lingayan continent, and like Chihei continent, they were also looking for Jun Changxiao. It is said that there is no need to be particular about the plain battlefield, just kill when you meet, but the two plain strongmen were 100 feet apart, but they did not show any intention to fight. It's not that they don't want to fight, it's just that they have fought each other more and gradually formed a tacit understanding. If you want to fight, make an appointment to go to the Killing Shura field. Killing Shura field, a main fighting area. According to the rules of the Upper Realm, the designated plane must enter the Killing Shura field to fight within a certain period of time. Of course, this rule was added later, and it didn't exist at the beginning. The reason is that the Upper Realm wants the Lower Realm to fight each other. The warriors in the Lower Realm are not stupid, and they often form a tacit understanding that you don't offend me, and I won't offend you. Let you kill, but end up sitting together drinking tea. This situation is awkward. Therefore, the Upper Realm has set a rule that new entrants must enter the killing field within a certain period of time to start killing. Chapter 880, Come to Welcome. To put it bluntly, on the edge of the plain battlefield, warriors from different planes can live in peace, but once they enter the killing field, they must fight to the death. When Jun Changxiao first came to the plain battlefield, he was also hunted by others, but they did not fight each other. There is no need to fight to the death for each other's 10 merit points. The new plain warriors will be rewarded with 100 merit points for taking the first blood, which is obviously more tempting. Planes like the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent have been in the battlefield for some years and know each other well. If there is no reason to fight, they will either talk nonsense or fight for a few rounds and then end it hastily. Although the plain battlefield is used for fighting, it is rare to fight as soon as you meet, except for the old bullying the newcomers. When the base of a certain plane expands to a certain extent, not only can the mission be completed, but you can also enter and exit between the plane and the battlefield at will. Come here to kill to obtain merit points and look for various opportunities. This is the case with the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent. They were designated hundreds of years ago, and after entering the plain battlefield, to expand the territory and successfully complete the task, they obtained the qualification to enter the battlefield at will. This means that, as long as the designated plane completes the task, it can retain the transmission device for future generations to come in to fight and train or seek opportunities. Only those planes that enter for the first time and fight forcibly will fight for the territory. Of course, there is another situation that can cause a big fight, that is, a certain cave or opportunity is discovered. For rich resources and merit points, people will go crazy. For example, decades ago, two planes with equal strength, who even greeted each other when they met, fought in a corner of a battlefield because of a divine treasure. That battle was earth-shattering and blood flowed like a river. Until the winner was decided, the treasure was also taken away by another plane. In fact, this kind of fight for treasures and opportunities is common in the plain battlefield with a long history. It is not realistic to say that they fight every day, unless some warriors kill crazily alone, or in small teams for the sake of excitement or to earn merit points. They often end up being beaten to death by the crowd, and then the grass on their graves grows several meters. Dozens of warriors from Lingayan continent stopped in the air outside the base, and the white-haired old man in the lead said lightly, "You come here diligently." Same. The middle-aged man leading the Red Sea continent smiled, but did not smile. The two planes had fought before, but their strength was equal. After several fights, there were many casualties, and no winner was determined. So slowly, there was only gunpowder smell when they met, and they did not dare to really fight. During the time when Jun Changxiao disappeared, the warriors from their two planes came most frequently. The main reason was that the distance was relatively close, and they also hoped to kill Jun Changxiao to get the first blood and get the 500-point wanted bounty. In my opinion, the white-haired old man said indifferently, "That kid has washed off the red light a long time ago and secretly hid in a corner and dared not come back." Humph. The middle-aged man said coldly, "After killing so many warriors in my Red Sea continent, that kid can't escape death, even if he hides at the ends of the earth." "Sorry," the white-haired old man said indifferently, "this prey belongs to my Lingayan continent." "Yours?" The middle-aged man laughed coldly. From the meeting to the conversation, the murderous atmosphere in the air became stronger, but there was no intention of fighting. "Let's go." The white-haired old man waved his hand. The main purpose was to come and take a look. If they didn't find the target, they would not stay for long. "Let's go too," the middle-aged man said. However, just as the two groups were about to leave, a person suddenly appeared out of thin air in the Lingayan continent stronghold, and the territory also expanded by about half a meter. Here, after stabilizing himself, Li Qingyang looked at the sky full of stars, looked at the red earth under his feet, and murmured, "Is it the plain battlefield?" Whoosh! In an instant, a strong murderous aura whistled down from two directions. Li Qingyang realized that there were dozens of powerful men comparable to the emperor level floating in the air, with unfriendly eyes. Although the sect master had said that there were many powerful men here, he was still inevitably shocked to see so many flying emperor level strong men. This Linup is in the Starfall continent. I'm afraid it will only appear when there is some major event. Dozens of eyes from the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent were staring at Li Qingyang, and soon they could tell that this boy was not the guy who killed Red Eyes that year. However, since he appeared in the stronghold, it means that he belongs to the Starfall continent like that guy. "Boy," the middle-aged man said coldly, "get out quickly." He couldn't be sure whether Jun Changxiao was alive. If he was alive, he could get the first blood by killing this boy. The white-haired old man thought so too, and hurriedly returned with his companions, hanging outside the base, his eyes filled with endless murderous intent. "It's a bit scary," Li Qingyang said in panic. Swish, swoosh. At this moment, Lu Qian, Xiao Zuji and others appeared in the stronghold. When they stood firmly on the ground, the Xingqiu continent stronghold would be expanded invisibly. It is not difficult to see the pattern. As long as the warriors representing the Xingqiu continent enter the battlefield, the stronghold will increase by half a meter. This is an initial value, which will be continuously stimulated with the number of people. When the limit is reached, even if all the people in the plane are brought in, there is only a fixed area. If you want to continue to expand, you have to fight non-stop. Seeing several more Xingqiu continent warriors appear, the warriors of the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent immediately murmured. It is said that the next batch of designated planes will take 5 years to come up. How come there are warriors entering the field in advance? Or is it intentional by the upper realm? The upper realm, MMP, I'm the one who takes the blame when the warriors are imagining. Swoosh, swish, swish, one after another, Long Xiang, Song Zuantao and others appeared in the Xingqiu continent stronghold. When they personally felt the world with a strong aura of killing, and felt a powerful person comparable to the emperor hanging in the air, their eyes were all burning. Here, as the master said, it is more terrifying than the secret realm of life and death. It's a bit exciting. Swish, swish. Jiangzi and the elders such as the Ning brothers also appeared, until Xia Lang and Xiao Marxen came in. The Xingqian continent stronghold increased from more than 20 square meters to more than 30 square meters. The eyes of the warriors from the Red Sea continent and Lingayan continent gradually lit up. In their eyes, about 20 Xingqian continent warriors were 20 prey that could be slaughtered at will. Swish, At this moment, a familiar figure appeared in the Zingayan continent stronghold. Seeing this, the warriors from the Red Sea continent immediately showed murderous intent. That's right, after causing such a big reaction, the last one to appear was naturally the extremely handsome Jun Changxiao. Welcome participants to return to the plain battlefield again. A female system prompt came from my ear. The portal was placed by Jun Changxiao, and only he could hear it. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others did not have this function, so they were in a state of semi-dizziness at the moment. Jun Changxiao steadied himself, glanced at the two groups of people outside, and said with a smile, "You knew that I would be back today, so you specially welcomed me here. Welcome a fart." The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and said, "You killed so many warriors in my Red Sea continent. Quickly clean your brains, and come out to die." Jun Changxiao understood. Although he had been away from the battlefield for a while, these people did not give up, and they should come to see every day. To die. Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers, and sat down casually. At this time, Xiao Zuji would definitely hand over the chair immediately, but because he was in an unfamiliar environment, and was still adapting, he ignored the leader's reminder. Plop. Jun Gaosheng fell directly to the ground. Disciple, plain warrior, in this extremely embarrassing situation, Jun Changxiao simply lay on his side, with his elbow on the ground, his palm dragging his face, his right leg over his left leg, making his body in an S shape, and then use the one finger Zen and Lion's Roar together. Come in. PS. The update will be released around 12:30 noon tomorrow. Chapter 881. I'm back again. PS. 15 chapters will be released in succession. Manual operation will inevitably lead to negligence. If there are any chapter errors, please do not panic. I will find the changes in time, refresh or delete, and re-add them to the bookshelf to read the latest content. Jun Zhangzu fell to the ground, and the scene was very embarrassing for a while. However, this guy reacted very well on the spot. He took the opportunity to lie on the ground and posed, which not only stabilized the situation, but also was full of provocation. This kid is so arrogant. The two plain warriors were immediately angry. Humph. The middle-aged man sneered. Don't lie on the ground and pretend to be dead. Get out quickly. Jun Changxiao stood up and snapped his fingers again. This time Xiao Zuji came to his senses and hurriedly put the chair in front. Jun Changxiao sat down steadily, crossed his legs, held the cigar in one hand, condensed the flame with the other hand, and lit it, and said, "Don't worry, let me take a breath first. This is not pretending. This is analyzing the strength of dozens of warriors present while speaking. 2 Zuan characters. More than 30 Huan characters." Jun Chang smiled and blew out a smoke ring, thinking to himself, no big problem. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others were also staring at the group of powerful men hanging in the air, their eyes flashing with a strong desire to fight. These people's strength is stronger than the spirit beasts in the secret realm of life and death. If they can fight with them, it must be very exciting and very enjoyable. Under the guidance of Master Jun, the disciples of the eternal ancient sect can definitely be called warmongers. The two plain masters also looked at the warriors of the Starfall continent again, and saw that most of their cultivation was at the lowest yellow level, so they sneered. "Master." Ding Xingwang transmitted the voice, "As long as you kill them, you will get merit points, and expand your base?" "Yes." Jun Chang smiled. Ding Xingwang said eagerly, "When do we start?" Now, the disciples were holding the Surge's talisman, and every second was very precious, so Jun Changxiao didn't hesitate. His eyes suddenly became cold, and he waved his hand and said, "All disciples, listen to my order. Get rid of all these people." "Yes." Swish, swish, swish. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others stepped out of the stronghold one after another, rubbing their hands, and the strong aura emanating from their bodies was like a demon that had been unsealed and walked out of hell. If it were in the Starfall continent, the opponent would definitely panic when seeing this scene. But in the plain battlefield, no one knows each other, and no one is convinced by each other, so how could they take it to heart? They even thought it was a pretense. "Dare you really come out?" The middle-aged man sneered. Although he didn't understand why so many people came from the Starfall continent, they must belong to the designated emerging plane. Since they came here, They must have a good military training. Bullying newcomers is the fun of the warriors in the Red Sea continent. Over the years, many warriors have fallen into their hands. Swish. At this moment, the white-haired old man from Lingayan continent who had been silent all the time rushed over first, and his vast momentum burst out like a raging sea. The young man who had been killing with red eyes before was still alive, which meant that the first blood of Lingayan continent was still there. If he killed him first, he could easily get 100 merit points. The middle-aged man thought so too. At the moment, when the white-haired old man made a move, he also hurriedly pressed down. The two Zuan character strongmen were competing to see who could make a move faster and who could take the first blood of Lingayan continent first. Hoo-hoo. The strongmen from Chihei continent and Lingayan continent came from both sides, and the momentum they burst out was obviously much stronger than that of Mu Changhong, the half-saint. Li Qingyang and others who were warming up did not care about them coming to kill, but stared at the more than 30 Huan character strongmen, because these were the opponents they were going to fight. Leave the one on the far left to me. I'll choose the second one. Give me the ugly one on the far right. They were communicating with the sound transmission technique and determined their targets one after another. Die. Hoo-hoo. The white-haired old man waved his hand, and a magnificent palm print condensed. The killer move condensed by this guy belongs to large-scale damage. Obviously, he not only wants to get the first blood, but also wants to get more merit points. Step. When the palm print was about to come down, Ding Xingwang suddenly appeared in the field of vision. He raised his head slightly, a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he said a classic line, "How can the light of a firefly compete with the sun and the moon?" Swish. The right fist suddenly blasted into the sky. Hoo-hoo-hoo. The powerful evil spirit turned into a huge fist and directly shattered the palm print with an overwhelming force. The move was broken by the domineering, and the white-haired old man who made the move immediately retreated several feet to the back. After stabilizing his body, he said in horror, "Earth character strongman." Buzz. Suddenly, the space behind him rippled. Die. Old Ding walked out from inside, and the palm containing 5 kinds of evil spirits blasted directly. The white-haired old man just turned around, taking the palm print with the best angle and the most complete right face, but with a bang, the whole person fell on the red earth like a cannonball. The earth shook and dust rose up. The warriors present had spiritual thoughts and captured it at the first time. The white-haired old man was sunken, his face and skin were black, and his breathing had completely stopped. Dead. The Zuan character strongman was killed instantly. The middle-aged man who attacked from the other side was horrified. Just as he was considering whether to continue the attack or retreat, a strong air wave suddenly erupted from below, and a red flame slash came from below. Not good. Boom. The flame slash exploded in the air, and immediately formed a rain of fire, rendering this grey area red and shiny. The one who performed the red sky flame slash was Gongsun Heohei. He stood in front of the disciples, raised his arm again, and 2 beams of light quickly condensed, and then whoosh absorbed into the bombing area. Bang. Under the 7 mysterious clouds, the middle-aged man was blasted out, and then stood in the sky in a very embarrassed manner. Not only were his clothes torn, but there were also 2 dents on his chest. Wow. Blood splattered, his face was pale. Elder Ding was a martial saint, and it was easy for him to kill a Zuan character strongman in seconds. Gongsun Heohei, who had just entered the semi-saint for less than 2 years, severely damaged a strongman of the same level in the Red Sea continent with just 2 moves, which fully demonstrated that becoming an elder of the eternal ancient sect has significantly improved his strength. Take advantage of his weakness to kill him. Gongsun Heohei did not give the other party a chance to breathe, and once again condensed the red sky fiery slash and blasted over. Boom. Faced with the extremely fast and domineering moves, the injured middle-aged man had nowhere to hide, and was hit by the scorching slash seal again, falling down like a kite with a broken string. The warriors of the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent were all dumbfounded. In their opinion, this new warrior from the plain was nothing more than a military training, but in a very short time, he killed and injured 2 of their own Zuan character strongmen. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Someone came back to his senses and shouted loudly. It was easy to kill and injure 2 Zuan character strongmen. This Lingayan continent warrior was so powerful that retreat was the wisest choice. Retreat? It was too late. Just when the middle-aged man landed, Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others had already communicated with the power of flight and rushed up, and with the blessing of the iron wings, the speed was extremely fast. Swish, Li Qingyang rushed over first. The true Yang sword in his hand contained light, suddenly piercing through the void, forming a cold and unparalleled sword energy. Li Fei and others either performed the red sky flame slash or the 7 mysterious clouds break. Hoo hoo. In an instant, the heat and light beams flashed outside the Xinjiang continent stronghold, like fireworks blooming, gorgeous and colorful. Puff. Wherever the sword passed, the arm flew out. After Li Qingyang crippled one person's arm, he killed again with the sword. Boom. Boom. Ling, a warrior from the Red Sea continent, condensed his moves and bombarded Xiao Zuji, who not only resisted with his flesh, but also didn't retreat half a step. There was no time to think, and he ran away. Hoo. The surrounding space suddenly emerged with thick earth attributes, and earth walls condensed, blocking the warrior in the blink of an eye. Xiao Zuji rushed in, his eyes burning, and said, "Come, let's have a good fight." Boom. Boom. The disciples were fighting outside the gate, and Jun Changxiao was sitting on a chair smoking a cigar, smiling and saying, "My fellow warriors on the battlefield, I'm back again. Are you ready?" Chapter 882 Give Up Treatment. Boom. Boom. Inside the 4 earth walls, Xiao Zuji was still bombarding. They had agreed to have a good fight, but in the end, he beat them like sandbags, and finally bounced back and forth on the earth wall, until he had no life left. Before entering the plain battlefield, Jun Changxiao always reminded his disciples that they must not be soft-hearted after entering, and kill them when they have the chance. Even the kind-hearted Li Qingyang obeyed his master's orders. After cutting off the arm of a Lingan continent warrior, he decisively shook out the sword flower and took off the opponent's head. Being kind to others in the plain battlefield is being cruel to yourself. The most extreme performance was Yi Xingchen, who had killed 3 in a short time, and his moves were very clean and neat. Retreat, retreat. A warrior from the Red Sea continent shouted. This was just a beautiful wish, because Jiangzi and the Ning brothers and others also came to kill. Some warriors may not be weaker than the disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect, but facing the top leaders of the Eternal Ancient Sect, they have no power to fight back, and the only thing waiting for them is to be wiped out. Some people ran fast, but just when they thought they were out of danger, they saw Jiao coming at high speed, waving his big hand, and blasting the target directly to the ground. There are Qingyang suits and steel wings. Brother, let's give up treatment. Boom. Boom. The fight continued, blood splattered. In just a short time, more than 20 warriors who originally came to the Xinjiang continent stronghold to take a look turned into corpses scattered on the red earth. Of course, some people took the opportunity to escape far away. Hoo. A warrior from the Red Sea continent who had just flown out looked back in horror, and the whole person was suddenly swallowed by a ball of fire. Can you run? Xia Longlong's child's head emerged from the flames, like a devil walking out of purgatory. No. The warrior shouted in despair. Hoo. The flames exploded, and instantly turned into ashes. Xia Longlong's eyes were filled with disdain. Swish. 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 At this moment, feathers burst out from the other side, blasting the Lingan continent warriors who had fled far away to the sky. Puff. Puff. The little fairy waved her wings and hung in the air, looking at Xia Longlong like a proud princess. TSK. Xia Longlong snorted coldly. You are a burden. Say it again. You are a burden. Nearly 40 warriors from the 2 planes were all wiped out in a short period of time, and the speed was extremely fast. As for the Xinjiang continent stronghold, it also expanded from more than 30 meters at the beginning to more than 70 meters. Swish. Jun Changxiao walked out. He stopped in front of the half-dead middle-aged man and said lightly, "Who is pretending to be dead now?" The powerful Xuanzi from the Chihei continent was in so much pain that he could not speak, because the meridians in his body were damaged by the 7 mysterious lights, and now he was already seriously injured. Swish, the knife flashed, and the head fell to the ground. Congratulations to the participants for killing the Xuan character warrior and gaining 10 merit points. The female system's voice sounded. Only 10 points. Jun Changxiao shook his head. When he first came here, killing a Zuan character warrior was considered a leapfrog, and he was given 20 points. Now that he has broken through to the semi-saint level, and is classified as a Zuan character, he is only given 10 points at the same level. By the way, Jun Changxiao said, "How much do I get if I kill a low-level Huan character warrior now?" 5 points. The female system said. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "If it is now the Earth character, how much will I get if I kill the Huan character?" 1 point. Heaven character kills the Huan character? 0 points. Jun Changxiao put away the King Lang Yanyu sword and held his chin and said, "It seems that I have to calculate how to maximize the merit points. Killing a low-level warrior by yourself will give 5 points, and if you encounter a Huan character and ask your disciples to kill it, it will be 10 points. Clean up the battlefield." Yes. The disciples took action one after another. After a while, everyone took back all the space rings of dozens of people. After Jun Changxiao checked one by one, he collapsed and said, "Why are there no good things here?" The system said, "In a battlefield like this where you could die in the next second, who would be so showy as to bring all kinds of resources and wait for others to plunder them?" Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "I'm overthinking." As he spoke, he walked back and forth in the stronghold, with small flags inserted all around. This year, his realm was stuck, but he was not idle to grow flowers and plants. He took the top grade array qualification liquid early and went to discuss and learn the array with Zen Ejin from time to time. With the help of Shangwens and IAO, who had a great imagination, the three successfully developed a new type of thunder array, which was very powerful. After killing so many people from the Red Blood continent and the Lingayan continent, the other side would definitely send out more strong men, so it would be great to set up a thunder array outside the stronghold in advance and blow them up. Although Jun Changxiao came here to fight, he must have thought deeply about how to make himself invincible. One failure, one wisdom. The previous dangerous situation of being chased and killed to know where to escape must never be allowed to happen again. It's so cool to fight. The warriors here are more durable than the strong men in the Zingayan continent. I just hit dozens of punches to get rid of that guy. If it were a normal martial emperor, he would have died long ago. When Jun Changxiao arranged the array, the disciples gathered together to discuss the previous battle, and their faces were full of excitement. Although the fight lasted less than 10 minutes, the enemy's toughness made them realize that this battlefield was indeed very exciting and very suitable for training. Unfortunately, it can only exist for 1 hour. Zilin Demon King stood beside with his hands behind his back, a trace of disdain on his face. He and Baekyo King did not make a move. On the one hand, it was Jun Changxiao's order to give his disciples a chance to fight, and on the other hand, the opponent was too weak and there was no need. To put it bluntly, the two beastmen who were comparable to the saint level can only reflect their value after the earth level strongman appears. Moreover, after learning that the merit points for killing the low level at a high level are small, Jun Changxiao will try to let them take less action when it is not necessary and let the disciples solve it to maximize the merit points. Dingxing Wang, Zilin Demon King, Baekyo King, Gongsun Heo Hei, Zia Long Long, Zio Markson. The 6 of them are the strongest representatives of the combat power of the eternal ancient sect, corresponding to the Earth and Zuan characters in terms of level. Of course, the strength of the Jun sect master who broke through to the semi-saint is also good, but in this situation, he would definitely not go looking for someone to fight alone. If there is a chance, he would lead his disciples to fight in a group. He would expand the base first. Master. Li Qingyang stood in the base, looking at the empty environment and said, "Does the base need to be built?" This guy, his occupational disease has come back again. Jun Chang smiled and said, "It should be necessary." Li Qingyang's eyes lit up and said, "Disciple, build a hall first." Although the base has expanded to nearly 100 meters, after killing dozens of plain warriors, there must be no space for a hall inside. Build it. Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, "At least there must be a place to stay. The base on Xingqiu continent is empty, and I must build a place to shelter from the wind and rain." Yes. With the consent of the master, Li Qingyang first set up a table, then took out a large stack of sketches, and began to choose according to the existing area. When he was free, he would study the architectural design sketches, and now it has come in handy. Master, how about this sketch? You decide. Yes. After Li Qingyang finalized a sketch, he took out a large amount of building materials from his space ring and called Xiao Zuji, Li Fei and others to start working. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. This guy's space ring was actually filled with stones, bricks and other building materials. It seems that he had thought about it before entering. It's necessary. After Li Qingyang asked about the situation of the plain battlefield in detail, he had already had an idea. If it weren't for the regional restrictions, he could barely build a hall. Otherwise, he was confident that he could build a large-scale building complex in a very short time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 883. The one who wants to die is here. After all the building materials were in place, Li Qingyang took the lead and started to build. The first step in building a house is to dig the foundation. Everyone gathered their strength and began to bombard according to the design sketch and soon smashed out a series of bits. Swish, swish. Long Xiang's sword was unsheathed and the wooden pillars were cut into round shapes. Hu. Xiao Zuji sat in the distance, condensed the excavated soil into bricks, and then steamed and baked it with high-intensity flames. Jun Chang laughed. If my group of disciples don't practice martial arts in the future, they will definitely not starve to death if they go out to work as bricklayers and carpenters. If the warriors in the plains see a group of yellow-letter strongmen, they will definitely be shocked. Big brother, this is a cruel plain battlefield, not your backyard. Can you be more serious? Can you be more serious? Swish, swish, swish. After the bricks and other things were refined, Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others moved bricks and laid bricks, working very seriously and carefully. Ding Liao and Jiangzi and others will also come to help. The little fairy had nothing to do, so she grabbed a pile of mud and threw it at Xiao Langlang. Pa, you dare to hit me? Xiao Langlang raised the mud bag next to him and hit the little fairy's head fiercely. Li Qingyang and Xiao Zuji's mouths twitched. The contracted beast of the clan leader doesn't know how to let girls have their way at all. Everyone was busy together, and the construction speed was very fast. About 20 to 30 minutes later, a large hall with a certain scale stood in the base, occupying 90% of the space. The style of the hall is similar to that of the Wangu sect. Due to time constraints, it was built in a relatively simple manner, and it did not have that kind of majestic momentum. Of course, there is still a lot of room for upgrading, and it will be gradually improved in the future. Clan leader. Li Qingyang took out the plaque engraved with a 4-character star for continent and said, "Do you want to hang it up?" This thing was prepared in advance, and it was really thoughtful. Jun Changxiao waved his hand to erase the words on the plaque, gathered his finger strength to outline it again, and said with satisfaction, "Hang it up." Yes. Li Qingyang flew up and hung up the plaque. Jun Changxiao stood outside the main hall. From his perspective, the plaque read the strongest sect in the world of eternal in 5 powerful characters. The flag representing the plane was also inserted on the roof and waved in the wind. From this moment on, Xingyan continent was officially listed on the plain battlefield and had its first building. Everything is ready, only the one who comes to die is missing. Jun Changxiao sat in front of the main hall, one foot on the chair, his arm resting on it. Xiao Langlang and Xiao Marxen stood behind him with mud on their faces, like 2 guardians on the left and right. Ding Liao, Gongsun Heohei and other high-ranking members of the Eternal Sect stood near the stairs and lined up in 2 rows. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others in the main hall were in the shape of a 1 facing the outside of the stronghold. Because they were wearing the true Yang suit, they looked like generals guarding the palace. Whoosh. At this moment, a stream of light flew over from the east at a high speed. Jiang Gaosheng smiled and said, "The one who comes to die is here." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, a stream of light broke through the sky from afar. They quickly gathered in the sky outside the base, with as many as 60 people. Judging from their clothes, they were obviously from the Red Sea continent. The leader was a middle-aged man with a resolute face, wearing a black suit, and exuding a powerful aura. The purpose of his visit this time was to find Elder He, who had led the team out, and had not returned yet. Elder Lee. A warrior pointed down, and said in surprise, Elder He is dead. The middle-aged man also saw the bodies of Elder He and other warriors. His face changed slightly, and then he looked at the young man sitting in front of the main hall of the base, and said coldly, "You killed them?" "Yes," Jun Changxiao said lightly. The middle-aged man's eyes were cold and angry. However, at this moment, he saw the bodies of warriors from Lingayan continent in the distance, and he was immediately surprised. "Did you kill these two?" "Yes," Jun Changxiao answered whatever he asked. Although the middle-aged man was angry, his heart had gradually calmed down. Nearly 40 warriors from our own family and Lingayan continent, as well as 2 Xuanzi strongmen, all died in front of the Lingayan continent stronghold. This shows that the opponent is very powerful, and that he may not be able to gain an advantage if he attacks. "Go," he shouted coldly. He left without hesitation, and went back to the stronghold, to inform others that sending a stronger team was undoubtedly the right choice. Unfortunately, when everyone was about to turn around, Xiao Langlong and Xiao Marxen had already circled behind them. The two enemies were either shaking their heads, or clenching their fists. "Since you're here," Jun Chang smiled and said, "how can you leave so easily?" Swish, swish, swish. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others flew out, their eyes flashing with fighting spirit. The thought of being able to fight with an emperor-level strongman anytime and anywhere made them excited. "Kill!" the middle-aged man shouted. Who? As he spoke, he gathered a vast momentum and attacked Xiao Langlong, who was blocking the way. He wanted to lead everyone out quickly and then return to the Red Sea continent stronghold to inform others of the situation here. Looking for death, Xiao Langlong blasted with his right fist, and the flames instantly erupted, turning into a flaming fist print, colliding with the power condensed by the middle-aged man. Boom. A huge explosion occurred, rolling up a rolling heat wave. The middle-aged man retreated several steps, and after stabilizing himself, he said in disbelief, "This guy looks like he is only at the Huangzi level. Why is he so strong?" Hoo-hoo. Xiao Langlong came with flames all over the sky, like a fire god descending to earth, and said coldly, "Because I'm handsome." Boom. Boom. Under the sky of fire, the middle-aged man was beaten back step by step, and finally adopted a bypass strategy, and went in another direction at a high speed. Although Xiao Langlong is only at the emperor level in the second form, his strength is very explosive. Feathers flying all over the sky. Just at this moment, a crisp sound came from the sky. Swish, swish, swish. Blade-like streamers burst from the sky. The middle-aged man who had just bypassed the flame attack suddenly changed his face and pinched his hand seals at the fastest time, shouting, "9 gang seal." Buzz, buzz, buzz. 9 barriers condensed in front of him in an instant. Bang bang bang, the flying feathers all over the sky slammed into the barrier that was similar to the formation barrier, and suddenly billowing smoke was produced. Swish. The middle-aged man flew out of it, and 4 of the 9 barriers gathered in front of him were broken. It seems that there is no big problem. After all, he is a powerful person with the character Xuan. The strength of the little demon fairy is only at the peak emperor level. If you want to hurt him, you have to find a flaw and choose the right time. Whoosh. The hot flames roared from behind again. Damn it. The middle-aged man was angry, and he could only helplessly compete with the flames of the little dragon. He had no chance to escape from here. The little demon fairy would also sneak attack from time to time. In this way, a strong man comparable to a half-saint was successfully dragged by Jun Changxiao's 2 contracted beasts. Red Sky Flame Slash. On the other side, Long Xiang flew over, condensed the seal of fire in his palm, and suddenly cut through the void and blasted out. Boom. The 2 yellow warriors teamed up to break the move, looked at each other, and immediately burst out their cultivation to meet it. They didn't think as carefully as the middle-aged man, thinking that the enemy came out of the stronghold with only more than 10 people, and it should be more than enough to fight one together. Red Spirit Light. Crossing the sea light. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several warriors from the Red Sea continent also took the opportunity to display various martial arts, condensing powerful beams of light to bombard Longxiang. On a battlefield without rules, they don't care about fighting with more people and can even launch sneak attacks because only those who survive are the winners. Chapter 884. The fight was very enjoyable. It's a bit troublesome seeing all kinds of gorgeous martial arts bombarding at him. Longxiang frowned slightly. Although he could not be inferior to those senior Huangzi strongmen with the Zenyang suit, he would definitely not be able to withstand so much power. Swish. At this moment, Zairozuji rushed over and waved his hands. Buzz buzz buzz. The materialized earth wall instantly appeared around them, covering the two of them. This kind of defense wall was gathered by earth spirits, and Zairozuji's great wilderness body was blessing it. The momentum it exuded was like several ancient mountains moved from the ancient great wilderness. The warriors of the Red Sea continent sneered. Although the wall looks a bit heavy, if we attack together, even the top Huangzi strongmen may not be able to withstand it. Boom. 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 Various beams bombarded the wall, rolling up the whistling wind. However, under the cold and fierce momentum, the earth wall erected around Zairozuji and Longxiang did not produce any cracks. The warriors of the Red Sea continent who attacked together were dumbfounded. Although they were not the strongest among the yellow level warriors, the combined attack of 5 or 6 people was extremely powerful. The warriors of the Xinjiang continent relied on the earth-based defense wall to resist, and there was not even a crack. It was really depressing. Bang, bang. The earth walls dissipated one after another. Zairozuji raised his head and grinned. It's really exciting. Being able to fight with such a strong man of this level and use the power of defense to experience stronger power made his blood burn wildly. Go. Li Qingyang shouted. Li Fei, Shanqi and others rushed up from the left and right sides. Their eyes flashed hot, and they locked onto an opponent and launched a crazy bombardment. At that moment, as long as it was the martial arts of the eternal ancient sect, they would be used in a blanket manner. Because there were more warriors in the Red Sea continent, in order to prevent the disciples from being outnumbered, Jun Changxiao ordered Jiangzi and other senior leaders to fight. To be precise, to assist Li Qingyang and others in the battle. Boom. He Wudi blossomed first. Relying on speed and martial arts, he wiped out a yellow character warrior on the spot. Li Xingchen was still fighting fiercely on the other side because the opponent was stronger than the one he had killed before. Pucci, after more than 10 moves, Payanio seized the opponent's weakness, and with a flash of cold light from his sword, he pierced his heart directly. You. The warrior looked at the masked warrior in front of him, his eyes dimmed with disbelief. He was obviously stronger than him, but why did he die in his hands? Because of equipment. Because of experience. Pucci. Li Xingchen drew his sword and rushed towards another warrior from the Red Sea continent without looking back. Although Li Qingyang, Zairozuji and others were not as high in realm as their opponents, they were blessed with the true Yang set and had experience in the secret realm of life and death. Once they let go and fought, they would be like ferocious birds and beasts out of the cage. Sect Master. Zilin Demon King said, "Can I fight?" Seeing Li Qingyang and others fighting fiercely, he was really a little unsteady. "Yes, I can." Before Jun Chang finished joking, the Purple Demon King flew out and instantly approached a powerful warrior from the Red Sea continent who was waiting for an opportunity to attack Zairozuji. He raised his palm and slammed him to the ground. Boom. The enemy fell to the ground, his chest sunken, and he died. Boom. Boom. The Purple Demon King attacked twice in a row. The two stronger yellow character warriors had no power to fight back at all and were wiped out on the spot, dead as hell. Jun Chang laughed, and the corners of his mouth twitched. This guy should be considered a ground character in terms of strength. Killing a yellow character only gives 1 merit point. This is a complete waste of life. At this moment, several Red Sea continent gathered all kinds of power and blasted over. Boom. 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 The Purple Ridge Demon King stepped out of the airwave, his eyes bursting with anger, and his clothes were about to explode. "Don't kill them." Jun Changxiao hurriedly dissuaded him. "Just be responsible for watching them, and don't let them slip away. Leave these warriors to Qingyang and others to deal with." "Okay." The Purple Ridge Demon King had to restrain his murderous aura, and stood in the air with his hands folded. Although his clothes did not explode in the end, the kingly aura emanating from his body deeply shocked the hearts of every warrior in the Red Sea continent. This guy is definitely a powerful person. No wonder Elderly asked everyone to evacuate quickly. It turns out that there is such a strong person in the Star Meteorite continent. After the Purple Ridge Demon King showed his powerful strength, the fighting spirit of the warriors in the Red Sea continent suddenly cooled down, and there was only one thought in their minds: to escape from this place as soon as possible. Go back. Bang, a warrior with the yellow character managed to escape, but was discovered by the Purple Demon King. He was slapped hard and staggered back to the battle zone again. Die. Yi Xingchen quickly approached the warrior who had been beaten back and had not yet stabilized his body. The King Guiyang sword flashed and cut off the head directly. Seize the opportunity. Arpaani, who is faster and more accurate than Li King Guiyang, Xiao Zuji and others. Bang, bang. Outside the stronghold, the battle continued. With the Purple Ridge Demon King guarding outside, the warriors of the Red Sea continent could only bite the bullet and fight, and then they died one by one at the hands of the high-level officials and disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect. When one of them killed one person, the stronghold would expand. The strong men of the Xinjiang continent would never dream that the battlefield that was opened 5 years later already had its own territory at this moment, and it was slowly expanding and slowly forming a scale under the efforts of the Eternal Ancient Sect. After fighting for about 10 minutes, Elderly of the Red Sea continent was beaten by Xiao Langlang and Xiao Markson. Finally, he roared with blue veins on his face and disappeared from the spot. Ran away. Used secret methods to run away. Damn it. Xiao Langlang clenched his fists angrily. Jun Chang smiled and said, if he ran away, it's no big deal. There's no need to be angry. The Zuan character strongman has a trump card and can disappear suddenly, which is something that no one can stop. What's more, running away is not necessarily a bad thing. After all, someone needs to take the news out so that more warriors can come to the stronghold and throw themselves into the fire. The middle-aged man escaped with his secret magic, and the remaining dozens of warriors were in tragedy. After struggling to hold on for 10 minutes, they were declared annihilated. Their strength may not be weaker than Li King Guiyang and others, but they can't stand Jiangzi and other high-level leaders of the Eternal Ancient Sect, and the Purple Demon King is sitting on the periphery, so it is reasonable that they ended up like this. The battle is over. The disciples began to lick the bags skillfully. After collecting and handing over all the space rings, they gathered together to discuss the battle just now. It was very exciting to fight. This battlefield in this plane is more exciting than the secret realm of life and death. The opponent just now was not weak. I burst out all my strength to barely gain a little advantage. According to normal strength, the disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect who have not even reached the Emperor level will definitely not be able to beat the yellow character strongman, but with the blessing of the Surge's talisman and the true Yang set, they can fight back and forth with him. Fighting the Emperor level at the King level will undoubtedly improve practical experience and understanding of martial arts. This is the real purpose of the plain battlefield portal. It is not used for pretending, but to allow warriors to sneak here without being restricted by the upper realm, to conduct actual combat training, thereby improving their own cultivation. As long as Li King Guiyang and his team can fight with high-level warriors as much as possible while ensuring safety, they will definitely benefit a lot from it regardless of winning or losing. Unfortunately, after 2 battles and the construction of the hall, the remaining time of the surge symbol was only a few minutes. When all the time was completed, they fell to the peak martial arts level one by one. Dear participant, the realm of the warrior you brought does not meet the regulations of the plain battlefield. You will be forcibly sent out after 60 seconds. The female system reminded. King Guiyang. Jun Chang smiled and said, return to the sect first. Yes. Li King Guiyang did not hesitate and took Xiao Zuji and others back to the Wangu sect through the portal. Lu Kai and Qian and He Wudi did not leave because they had the strength of a martial emperor and met the regulations of the plain battlefield. Chapter 885. Enemies meet, eyes full of jealousy. Because the time of the surge symbol has expired, Li King Guiyang, Xiao Zuji and others can only return to the Eternal Sect. Come when you want, go out when you want. The advantages of the plane battlefield portal are once again reflected. If those other plane masters who are designated to fight within 5 years and expand their territory to a certain range knew about it, they would definitely be envious to tears. Of course. Although they only stayed in the battlefield for an hour and experienced 2 battles with Emperor level masters, the benefits they gained were also very huge. Li Qingyang and others returned to their respective rooms and began to comprehend the process of realm improvement and fighting with yellow character warriors. This rare opportunity to fight against high level masters cannot be measured by money and resources. Soon. Yi Xingchen, who was sitting cross-legged in the room, said secretly, the breakthrough to the martial emperor should be in these few days. With the blessing of the surge symbol, fighting with masters from other planes has benefited him a lot, so he has accelerated the breakthrough speed. Plane battlefield. After 2 battles, hundreds of plane warriors were wiped out, and the area of the Xinjiang continent increased significantly. Master, Ding Xinguang said, this place is not scary. Jun Changxiao was speechless. If he had experienced it once, being hunted by thousands of emperor level masters, he would definitely not think so. Let's go. Jun Changxiao stood up and clenched his fists and said, go out and cause trouble. Except for He Wudi and Lu Qian, the others were quite strong, which made him unwilling to wait in the stronghold, but decided to take the initiative to attack and gain merit points. But just when Jun Changxiao was about to lead people out, the space in front of him suddenly shook, and a white-haired old man appeared from it, with a strong and powerful aura all over his body. Obviously, it was a powerful earth-level master comparable to a martial saint. Ding Xinguang frowned. From the aura exuded by that person, he realized that the other party's strength was definitely not inferior to his own. Old fellow. After seeing the appearance of the newcomer, Jun Changxiao clenched his fists and said with murderous intent, we meet again. It turned out that the white-haired old man was the earth character strongman who had suppressed him with a powerful palm print. Thinking back to when he was blasted away like a mole, Jun Zhangsu's anger could not be suppressed at all, and his eyes gradually turned red. The enemy is very jealous. Swish, swish, a stream of light flew from the east. In a moment, hundreds of Huan character and Zuan character strongmen from the Red Sea continent gathered outside the Xinjiang continent stronghold. A bit fierce. Ding Xinguang murmured. Martial emperors with dozens of people have been seen in Xinjiang continent. Now there are hundreds of them, including some semi-saints, which makes him realize that what the Zhangsu said is right, and the plain battlefield is indeed full of strong people. Senior Shen, an old man said in a deep voice, the Xinjiang continent not only killed many yellow character warriors from Archahe continent, but Elder He was also killed by them just now. Damn. Jun Changxiao said secretly, it turns out that this guy is a strong man from the Chahe continent, no wonder he would suppress me. The first time he came to the plain battlefield, he killed the most warriors from the Chahe continent. In fact, at the beginning, this earth character strongman disdained to deal with a low-level warrior, but he killed many of his own people during his escape and was wanted, so he decided to suppress him personally, but he still let him escape to the safe zone. Boy, She Yuanzi said lightly, I'll let you escape last time, but you dare to come out this time, but you are not so lucky. As expected of a strong man with the word earth, every word and every sentence contains pressure. Tram. Jun Changxiao strode out of the stronghold, with his hands behind his back, saying, what you should think about now is, whether you can go back safely, if you appear in front of me again. Very arrogant. Very coquettish. But when he just took a step forward, She Yuan's eyes suddenly turned cold, and the terrifying might gathered in the sky, turning into a palm print carrying clouds and mist to suppress it. Jun Changxiao was very familiar with this move. He felt a sense of crisis when he was suppressed one after another before. Now that he has broken through to the half-step martial saint, he is experiencing it in person. Although he is still a little afraid, he is at least not so afraid. Proof of becoming stronger. Sect Master. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers and others changed their faces. The palm prints performed by the earth character strongman made them equally afraid, so they were worried that Jun Changxiao could not bear it. Bear it? If it is not impossible to avoid it, only a fool would take it. Whoosh. the palm print carrying clouds and mist pressed down, and the surrounding space was almost distorted under the pressure of power. But, just when he was still a few feet away from Jun Changxiao, Ding Xingwan walked out of the stronghold and said with a cold smile, "With my 5 absolute evil saints here, no one can hurt the sect master. Big boss. Stop pretending, break the move quickly." Jun Changxiao said that he was under great pressure now, and he would be depressed if he couldn't handle the palm print. 5 absolute palms. Who? 5 kinds of evil spirits gathered together, and Ding Xingwan raised his hand to meet them instantly, and then collided fiercely with the pressing cloud palm print. Boom boom, the deafening bombardment sound rippled in this dark area, various energies were crazy and wanton, and the space was faintly distorted. When everything calmed down, Jun Changxiao had a light smile on his face. "It's comfortable to have bodyguards to protect you." She Yuanzi frowned slightly and suddenly realized, no wonder he dared to come out. It turns out that there is a strong man with the word earth in charge. Nonsense. Jun Changxiao said unhappily, "I didn't bring a strong man in, and I was ready for you to suppress me." Hundreds of warriors from the Red Sea continent who had rushed to hack this guy to death with swords learned that the gray-haired old man was a strong man with the word earth, and hurriedly gave up the idea and stood in the air to attack remotely by glaring. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers also came out. They stood behind the clan leader and fought back by glaring. The Red Sea continent was suspended in the air, and the Xinjiang continent stood outside the stronghold. They were glaring at each other with a kind of formation of "What are you looking at? What's wrong with you? Look at me again and try it." She Yuanzi said lightly, "Boy, do you think you can be fearless on the plain battlefield with a strong man with the word earth?" But the space shook. Elder Ding suddenly rushed out from behind. 5 kinds of evil spirits broke out and spread in this area in an instant. "Shameless!" She Yuanzi shouted coldly and then waved his palm to meet it. Boom. The 2 saints fought again. Although they didn't win or lose, the energy fluctuations generated were even stronger than before. The old man from the Red Sea continent saw that Jun Changxiao had lost his protection and immediately ordered, "Kill him." Hoo. 70 or 80 yellow-lettered warriors rushed down, releasing various moves in the process, and suddenly formed a gorgeous and spectacular picture. Jun Changxiao sneered, "Master, get out of the way." Xiao Lang stood in front of him and said, "I'll burn them to death." Jun Changxiao took a few steps back, and Jiangzi and the Ning brothers also subconsciously took 2 steps back, leaving the stage for pretending to be tough to this contracted beast. "Dare to hurt my master." Xiao Lang clenched his fists, the flames around him burned wildly, and his eyes were cold and said, "Then all die." Chapter 886. Xiao Lang is bloodthirsty. Whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the explosive and hot air waves swept over and quickly gathered a few feet away in front of them, forming a whirlpool like wind flow. The Red Sea continent who was rushing over felt something was wrong and hurriedly braked and retreated. However, it was too late. "Firestorm." Xiao Lang shouted. Whoosh. In an instant, the gathered hot air waves suddenly erupted into a vortex of flames, and then formed an explosive column of fire that seemed to break through the sky. The dragon flame technique was fully exerted. Dozens of Red Sea continent warriors had no time to dodge, and they screamed in pain as they were trapped in the sea of fire. Although those warriors who rushed over in time braked and retreated, they were still unable to resist the harassment of the scorching flames. They were burned and seriously injured, and fell to the ground like scorched flies. "Oh my god," Jun Changxiao said in surprise, "so powerful?" Since Xiao Lang learned the dragon flame technique, he has only used it in the inner courtyard, and he has not let go yet, so no one knows how powerful it is. Now, nearly 100 warriors rushed over and released it without fear, causing such a wide range of lethality. Very powerful, very terrifying. When the sky-high fire column was formed, all kinds of martial arts and energy were instantly integrated into it and burned to ashes. Dozens of yellow characters and even 2 strong men who had just reached the Zuan character could not escape and were directly swallowed by the sky-high fire waves and burned to ashes. The only proof of existence was the screams of dying. After the dragon flame technique broke out, 23 of the 70 or 80 yellow characters who attacked died, and more than 40 were seriously burned. The rest escaped the flame area in time, but they were also shocked and sweated profusely on their foreheads and backs. What kind of move is this, which can produce such a terrifying killing range and lethality in the moment of release? It's worth spending 10,000 contribution points. Jun Changxiao laughed. The dragon flame storm is much stronger than a field artillery. If it explodes in a team of thousands of warriors, it will definitely burn a large area to death. So fierce. Xiao Lang himself was also stunned. However, the price of being strong is that you need energy to bless it. If it happens again, you will definitely be exhausted. Boom. Boom. In the sky, Ding Lao and She Yuanxi have already started fighting. Both of them are relatively strong saint level masters, and their strengths are evenly matched. If they want to determine the winner, it is possible that they will fight until the younger generation gets married and has children, and the son gets married and has grandchildren. Of course, Jun Changxiao will definitely not let the two of them fight all the time. He is always looking for an opportunity to hit the earth level master hard with the Shianeo and soul suppressing tower when he is not paying attention. Master. At this moment, Xiao Lang said in confusion, "Why is my body red?" Red? Jun Changxiao turned his head and saw that the guy was surrounded by a red light different from the flames, so he collapsed and said, "Oh no, you are killing people." When he first came to the plane, he killed 19 yellow characters and 1 black character and became a celebrity. Xiao Lang killed many more yellow characters and 1 black character warriors, and now he is more popular than before. The warriors of Xinjiang continent killed 23 yellow characters and 2 black characters. They have entered the killing mode. A 3rd level wanted order is issued with a reward of 500 merit points. A heavy voice came from the sky. Sure enough, Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "Wanted." Swish. As soon as the voice fell, the red light emanating from Xiao Lang's body rushed into the sky, and the warriors of each plane within hundreds of miles could clearly capture it. Xinjiang continent? Why did you appear again? Are you killing again? This is really a restless plane. Let's go. It's very close to us. Let's go over and take a look. Maybe we can get lucky and grab a head and earn 500 merit points. Swish. 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 In an instant, warriors from all planes within hundreds of miles of the Xinjiang continent stronghold gave up their work and rushed over at the fastest speed, and even alarmed dozens of Zuan character strongmen. The merit points given by high level killing low level are small, so they may not be interested, but taking down a 3rd level wanted criminal will give 500 points, which is definitely worth a try. Zilin, Bakyu. Jun Changxiao hurriedly said, "Hurry up and help old Ding get rid of that guy." At this moment, he also roughly guessed that the red light rising into the sky will definitely attract a large number of plane warriors, and the old guy must be solved in a limited time. Trampling. Zilin Demon King came out first, and then heard 2 explosions, and his clothes and pants were torn, revealing his strong body. Jun Changxiao covered his face and said, "It's really embarrassing." Swish. The Purple Ridge Demon King disappeared from the spot, and the battle area appeared. He said coldly, "Leave this old guy too." Just at this moment, Ding Xinguang dodged the bombardment of She Yuanxi, and the palm print carrying vast power hit his chest fiercely. Boom. The Purple Ridge Demon King fell to the ground like a cannonball. Jun Changxiao, Jiangzi and others. Damn it. The Purple Ridge Demon King stood up from the deep pit, his body enveloped by purple light, and said angrily, "This king will make you live a life worse than death." Swish. As soon as the voice fell, his feet burst out with power. Boom. The ground suddenly sank again, and ripples of energy spread out. Swish. The Purple Ridge Demon King flew up like a spring, and the speed was so fast that it could not be described in words. Swish. Instantly approaching She Yuanxi, he put his arms together and smashed over suddenly, and the burst of power directly shattered the surrounding space. Not good. The face of the strong man from the Red Sea continent changed in shock, and he hurriedly stepped on his feet to dodge in a weird and unpredictable way. Boom. However, when he stabilized his body, the Purple Ridge Demon King appeared out of thin air behind him, and his elbow slammed into his back, and the whole person fell to the ground with a bang. "So strong," Ding Xinguang exclaimed. The Demon King, that required 5 martial saints to seal together, has now recovered to the level of being suppressed. His combat power is absolutely strong. Swish, the Purple Ridge Demon King flew down and hung a few feet above the sunken pit. The purple attribute burst out, and a huge fist print was gathered in an instant, and then it started to bombard crazily. He was very angry. He wanted to use absolute strength to smash this old guy to death. Boom. Boom boom boom. The terrifying power erupted again and again. The ground shook frequently. Cracks began to appear in the central area and spread infinitely to the surroundings. Whoosh. The energy ripples were rampant. The warriors of the Red Sea continent were shocked, and all of them were horrified. It turned out that this guy with flying purple hair and red underwear was even more powerful than the gray-haired old man. Senior Shen, can he withstand such an explosive bombardment? This is not the time to care about others, because Jiangzi, the Ning brothers, Jelao, Xiao Longlong, Xiao Marxin and others rushed up. Jun Changxiao not only wants to get rid of the Earth character strongman, but also keep all the warriors of the Red Sea continent. Bullying this seat? There will be a painful price to pay. Chapter 887, Suppressing the Earth character strongman. Red sky blazing flame slash. 7 mysterious clouds break. Jiangzi, Jelao and others rushed forward and used the martial arts of the eternal ancient sect. The scorching slash seal and powerful beams burst out, shocking the sky and shaking the earth. Boom. Boom. Swish, swish, swish. The locked Red Sea continent was ruthlessly harvested, and blood and limbs were splattered. Xiao Longlong and Xiao Marxin also joined the battle. The strength of the 2 contracted beasts was between the mysterious and earth levels, and they could take people's lives every time they attacked. The Red Sea continent suffered a large number of casualties due to the dragon flame storm just now. Now, facing only a few people from the eternal ancient sect, they have lost the power to resist. At this time, it can be described as a one-sided massacre. Boom. Boom. The fight continued. As more plain warriors fell, the Xinjiang continent stronghold was expanding step by step. It may take several years for other plain strongholds to be built from scratch, but this stronghold is expanding every minute and every second, and the speed is amazing. Boom. Boom boom boom. The Purple Ridge Demon King was still condensing purple fists to attack, and he attacked at least 40 times in a short period of time. Ding Xingwang's mouth twitched slightly. This guy's power was very overbearing. If he had been bombarded so intensively, he would have been injured by now. Sect Master. After a few more punches, the Purple Ridge Demon King said, should we let him die or make him useless? This was said to Suzaomo and the Yunling Mountains, but it resulted in the other party's mental breakdown and a play could not be performed at all. Break him up. Let me do it. Jun Chang laughed. The Purple Ridge Demon King stopped bombarding and folded his hands and said, he is already disabled now. So fast? Jun Chang laughed in astonishment. Hoo-hoo. The cold wind blew, blowing away the dust. In the area, bombarded by the Purple Ridge Demon King, a large deep pit with a width of 100 feet suddenly appeared. The earth character strongman Shen Yuanxi was lying in the deepest part. His clothes were disheveled, his body was covered with wounds, and it was very tragic. There were also pieces of broken lenses in his hands. This item is called the Ancient Imperial Mirror. It is a high-level defensive treasure in the Red Sea continent. When Shen Yuanxi fell, he realized that the Purple Ridge Demon King was stronger than the old man, so he decisively sacrificed it and formed a defensive barrier in front of him. If it were Ding Xingwang, even if he bombarded it frantically for several hours, he might not be able to break the powerful barrier. But in front of the Demon King, who is famous for his strength, let alone one defensive treasure, even if there is another one, it is just like a false reality. Not only did Shen Yuanxi fail to withstand the explosive bombardment, but the ancient Imperial Mirror also had difficulty resisting the power and shattering. After recovering his strength before being suppressed and training in the Eternal Ancient Sect, the Purple Ridge Demon King is now absolutely terrifying. It can be said that taking a martial saint alone to park with him is a completely unsolvable existence. Old guy. Jun Changxiao flew above the deep pit and said coldly, today, I will get back the revenge of the suppression back then with interest. Swish. The Shianeon Demon Suppression Tower appeared in front of him out of thin air, exuding a breath from ancient times. Go. my sweetheart. Swoosh. The Shianeo and Demon Tower flashed with light and flew down from top to bottom, growing larger in the process. Zilin Demon King and Dingxing Wang didn't care about the pagoda, but stood there dumbfounded. The words the sect master shouted, and the actions he made. My god, this is too shameful, too embarrassing. How on earth did he make such a woman's action? Does he have any shame? The Zilin Demon King recalled what happened just now, and goosebumps broke out. At the same time, he pointed at Jun Changxiao and shouted, pervert. Jun Changxiao turned his head and roared, you naked man whose clothes burst in a fight. You have the nerve to say that to me. Pervert. You. Pervert. Dingxing Wang. In his opinion, the sect master and the purple hole master were both perverts. Boom. At this moment, a heavy voice came. The dozens of feet long Shianeo and soul calming tower was directly pressed into the deep pit, with flowing light lingering around it, exuding a desolate atmosphere that seemed to come from the cause. Dingxing Wang said solemnly, the quality of this tower is probably not low. In normal plots, the protagonist holding a powerful treasure is often in the spotlight, suppressing the opponent in a dignified manner under the magnificent light, thus showing his strong side. When it comes to Jun Changxiao, he first lets his men beat the other person to a pulp, and then suppresses him with the Shianeo and soul calming tower. It can be said to be very shameless. Hoo-hoo. The desolate atmosphere spread all around in an instant. The warriors of the Red Sea continent, who were already at a disadvantage, were affected and their faces changed again and again. Among them, there was a strong man who had studied the treasures a little bit. He judged from the momentum and pressure of the Shianeo and soul calming tower, and said in surprise, it is definitely a heaven level treasure. The word heaven level is a realm of the treasures in the Red Sea continent. It is considered a divine product in the corresponding Xinjiang continent. Pachi. At this moment, the sword light flew over. The shocked warrior had no time to dodge, and his head was cut off. He put away his sword and said lightly, you dare to desert during the life and death battle. You are lucky to be alive now. However, looking at the Shianeo and soul calming tower, he was shocked and thought to himself, the treasure sacrificed by the sect master may not exist in the mortal world. It must be the treasure left by Senior Kixon. Congratulations to the participants for defeating the Earth level warrior and gaining 20 merit points. A female system prompt came from his ear. Defeat. Jun Changxiao was stunned. The female system said, the target is not dead, but it is judged to have completely lost its combat effectiveness. Participants will also receive the same reward, but it can only be given once. Even if you kill it later, there will be no reward. Muah. I see. Jun Changxiao suddenly realized, no wonder when I first came to the battlefield, when I was tired of escaping and breaking through, I casually knocked the opponent away, and I also got a merit value reward. Wait. That guy was hit hard by the Shianeo and soul suppressing tower and didn't die. He just lost his combat effectiveness. A strong man with a character is so awesome. Swish. Jun Changxiao raised his hand, and the Shianeo and soul suppressing tower suddenly became pocket-sized, and then flew to his side. She Yuanzi in the deep pit had his clothes torn into pieces, and he was suppressed and bloody. He also fainted completely. Go. Jun Changxiao once again posed in the heart shape, and shamelessly shouted, my. Whoosh. Suddenly, a strong air wave broke out in the distance, and countless strong men were flying over like lightning. Old man, you're lucky. Jun Changxiao gave up the idea of suppressing the other party to death, and used the sound transmission technique to at all members return to the base. Boom. Boom. After killing 2 more warriors from the Red Sea continent, Jiangzi and others returned to the Xinjiang continent base at the fastest speed, and stood outside the hall. Xiao Langyang and Xiao Marxen also came back. When they just retreated to the base, countless strong men emerged from all directions. The number gradually expanded from a few hundred to thousands at the beginning, and their strength was also high-level Huangzi and Zuanzi strong men. This is a bit terrifying, Dingxing Wang said with his eyes wide open. At first, he felt that the plain battlefield was just like that, but now so many Emperor level and semi-saint level strong men came down, and he was immediately shocked. Chapter 888, Kill Without Mercy. Whether the plain battlefield is terrifying or not can be seen from the thousands of strong men gathered outside the stronghold. After all, such a luxurious linoop is absolutely rare in a single continent. Fortunately, Jun Changxiao and others evacuated quickly. Although so many people came over, they could only stand outside and stare, not daring to rush in. Of course, all the plain warriors' eyes were locked on Zhao Langlang. After all, this guy was red all over, worth 500 merit points. Senior Shen. At this moment, the leading old man of the Red Sea continent fell in front of She Yuanxi with wounds all over his body, then picked him up who was unconscious, performed some kind of escape secret method, and disappeared out of thin air. Wasn't it Zudinkan and the Earth character strongman She Yuanxi from the Red Sea continent who disappeared just now? How could they be beaten into this state? Could it be done by the Star Meteor continent? The eyes of the plain strongman were filled with disbelief. The existence that can walk sideways in the plain battlefield, second only to the top strongman of the heaven character, was beaten so embarrassed and unconscious. Everyone. Jun Changxiao sat in front of the hall, crossed his legs, and said proudly, "This is the end of offending my Xinjiang continent." From this sentence, all warriors were immediately sure that She Yuanxi was solved by Xinjiang continent, so they all became alert. One person saw the plaque hanging in the hall and read, "The strongest sect in the eternal age." Yes. Jun Changxiao said, "This sect. So arrogant. A sect of a low-level plane theirs, to name it the strongest in the eternal age. Who gave you the courage? These powerful men in each plane also have their own forces and sects. They must be very contemptuous of someone who dares to name it the strongest sect in the eternal age." In Xinjiang continent, it was thanks to Yi Xiangxing's initiative to remove the two words strongest and announce it to the world as the eternal sect. Otherwise there would have been a big force that was dissatisfied and came to the door. In order to develop in a low-key manner, Jun Changxiao chose to compromise and did not insist on showing people the strongest sect in the eternal age. The plain battlefield is different. First, there are no acquaintances, and second, there is a stronghold to protect. Even if it is called the strongest sect in the universe, there is nothing to worry about. Don't accept it? Come in and fight me. Jun Changxiao's mentality now is that, since he has come to the plain battlefield, he doesn't care about anything. He just wants to be wild and high profile. Can't beat him? Leave through the portal, practice for a while, and then kill back to take revenge. What? Jun Changxiao folded his hands and said lightly, "The name of my sect must be approved by you other planes before it can be used." Boy. A warrior sneered, "Since it is the strongest sect in the ages, come out like a man. Have you analyzed the strength?" Jun Changxiao said. The system said, there are more than 160 Zuan character strongmen and 2600 Huan character strongmen. Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together and thought to himself, although there are more people, there are no D character strongmen. We should be able to kill a lot of them in a short time, so as to expand the stronghold a lot. But if we kill them all, they will all become red names. Oh, a little tangled. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said calmly, "This time I came here only to target the Red Sea continent. You'd better leave quickly, otherwise." His eyes gradually became cold, and he said, "Kill without mercy." "Kill without mercy?" A strong man said coldly, "Boy, can you do it?" A sarcastic smile appeared on the faces of others. If it was just them, they might feel a little guilty. After all, She Yuanxi was knocked unconscious, but at this moment, there were thousands of people, so they were naturally fearless. "Since you don't leave, don't blame me for being cruel." Jun Changxiao waved his hand, and the high-quality True Yang sword appeared in his hand, and then he put the mask on his face casually. Hoo-hoo. With the blessing of the 4 sets of True Yang, his own strength in all aspects was enhanced. Catcher. The Purple Ridge Demon King and the 100 Hills King standing next to him began to shake their heads, their eyes flashing with the fierce light that only beasts have. The master has sent a message that they can burst out without restraint and kill as many high-level warriors as they can. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers were also warming up, their eyes full of excitement. Although they had experienced many battles before, they ended quickly after all. Now there are thousands of strong men on the scene, and it will definitely be fun to fight. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said coldly, "I reiterate again that the enemy of my Xinjiang continent is a Red Sea continent. Those who are not related, please leave quickly, otherwise, you will all be buried here. On the battlefield, it is either you die or I live. Unless it is necessary, he is unwilling to offend so many planes. Boy, a strong man from a certain plane said coldly, don't be so arrogant in the stronghold. If you have the ability, hurry up. Pointing to Xiao Longlong, he said, let him come out. The warriors who came didn't care about Jun Changxiao and others, but cared about this Bagred name. After all, killing him would give 500 merit points. Stubborn. Jun Changxiao held the hilt of the sword, and the mechanical armed wings appeared behind him, and he said with murderous intent, then go to death. As soon as the word die was finished, he flew out with a whoosh and appeared in front of the strong man at lightning speed, and the cold and unparalleled sword light suddenly emerged. Puchy, the sword light dissipated, and the head flew out. Plop, plop. The corpse and the head fell to the ground. Because the whole process was too fast, the closest warriors from the plains were stunned, and didn't realize that Jun Changxiao had already taken action. Congratulations to the participants for taking down the first blood of the Zuan character warrior from the prominent continent, and gaining 100 points of merit. Swish, swish. Jun Changxiao ignored the system prompts, turned around and shook out a one-word sword formula, and the sky full of sword shadows suddenly rose in the air, and the whole air was suddenly filled with extremely sharp sword energy. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Everyone finally came to their senses, and retreated from the sword energy explosion area as quickly as possible, but there were also several Huan character warriors who didn't have time to hide, and were immediately cut into pieces by the dense sword energy. Puff, puff, blood splattered, and limbs flew everywhere. When the sword energy dissipated in the air, several plain warriors died tragically. Congratulations to the participants for taking over the 20th continent. The female system was announcing the merit value reward for Jun Changxiao, while some warriors who had dodged in advance roared with bloodshot eyes, brother, die, die. The warrior companions and others killed by Jun Changxiao burst out their cultivation in anger, condensing various energies to bombard them. Boom. At this moment, a purple energy fist print appeared outside the stronghold, and it was like bowling that blasted away more than 20 plain powerhouses gathered together. Because the power burst was terrifying enough, those people could not bear it during the short process of flying out, and they exploded into a bloody rain. Hiss. The surrounding warriors sucked in cold air, killing so many yellow letter powerhouses with one punch. The abnormal strength of the exposed body is too terrifying. Whoosh. At this moment, a violent aura suddenly came from the sky, and the sky suddenly darkened. They were so shocked that they all looked up and saw a big palm print pressing down. It's over. Boom boom. The palm print carried a force of 10,000 kilograms, directly blasting more than 20 plain strongmen to death on the ground. The one who made the move was none other than King Baiqiu. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. These two guys killed people so lavishly, I'm afraid. While thinking, the Zilin Demon King and King Baiqiu flashed red light all over their bodies, and a heavy voice came from the sky. Two warriors from the Xinjiang continent have killed 46 yellow letter warriors in succession, and have entered the killing mode. A third level wanted order is hereby issued, with a reward of 500 merit points each. Swish, swish. Two red rays shot up into the sky. Sure enough, Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, I've become a big celebrity again. Chapter 889 Nine Heavens Continent. After Xiao Longlong, the Purple Demon King, and the 100 Hills King, who killed dozens of people with one move, were also wanted, and became the most popular people in front of the Emperor. This is one of the rules of the plain battlefield. You can kill people recklessly, but after killing a certain number, you must be sanctioned, and must accept collective targeting by others. Red. They are red. Seeing the red light that flashed through the sky and earth around the Purple Demon King and the 100 Hills King, the eyes of the warriors in the plains suddenly glowed with a hot luster. Killing a warrior of the same level only gives 10 points, killing a wanted criminal gives 500 points, and if you kill two, the merit points you get can completely purchase a large number of martial arts resources, and you will reach the peak of your life from then on. Not everyone has the strength of Jun Changxiao, and coming here to kill people is like cutting melons and vegetables. Sometimes warriors in other planes have 10 merit points, and they may be defeated and then be ambushed and die. So, The temptation of 500 merit points is too great. Go. A cold old man said in a deep voice. Swish. Swish. In an instant, dozens of strong men from a certain plane flew over. Others also acted quickly. At this time, no one cared about Jun Changxiao. There were only two big red men hanging outside the stronghold in their eyes, and they also ignored the terrifying strength they had just exploded. In front of 500 merit points, people will fall into madness. Further away, other planes are also rushing over at the fastest speed. There were 3 red lights in the adjacent area at the same time. This situation is very rare, so it is destined that there will be a lot of noise outside the Zingan continent stronghold in the near future. Kill. Jun Changxiao said with a cold look. Since you are here, since you are still strong, then fight him to the death. Get out. The purple demon king shouted coldly, and the purple attribute burst out crazily, turning into 2 big fists, sweeping away all the attacking warriors like mowing grass. Bang 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 bang. In an instant, dozens of yellow warriors were killed, and the area of the Zingan continent stronghold expanded a lot, but the body became more and more crimson. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. He was not worried that the Purple Ridge Demon King would become more and more popular, but with this guy's current strength, it would be a waste to wantonly harvest yellow warriors and give only a little merit value for each one. Boom. Boom. Although the Baikyu King on the other side was not as powerful as the Purple Ridge Demon King, he also treated human lives as grass when he exploded. What's more, because of the relationship between the tribes, they were originally hostile to humans, so there was naturally no burden to kill them. Boom boom boom. After a few rounds, the number of warriors who died at the hands of Zilin and Baikyu was almost over 100. The 2 beasts showed terrifying fighting power, which made the yellow warriors who were almost losing their minds gradually calm down, and they were so scared that they retreated and dared not approach. Too fierce. Going up would definitely kill him. The current situation is that Jun Changxiao is standing outside the stronghold. The Purple Ridge Demon King and the 100 Hills King were hanging on the left and right sides like guardians, surrounded by thousands of fearful warriors from all directions. The scene seemed to be frozen. Everyone. Jun Changxiao grinned and said, "Come on, have fun." Everyone's mouth twitched slightly. They really wanted to go over and tear this guy's mouth open, but with the Purple Ridge Demon King and the 100 Hills King there, they could only stand far away and attack with their eyes. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, "A bunch of cowards." The presence of 3 thugs comparable to the strong men of the Word Earth gave him the right to pretend to be as powerful as he wanted. Buzz. Buzz. Suddenly, the space in the distance shook continuously, and 2 gray-haired old men slowly appeared. They were wearing long robes, and there was a vast momentum around them. One had kind eyes and a smile like spring breeze, and the other had angry eyes and a fierce look. "This is," a plain strongman said in surprise, "the kind-hearted and angry evil man of Jiushan continent." Hearing the words Jiushan continent, all the warriors present changed their faces, and their eyes suddenly showed strong fear. There are many planes in the battlefield, and naturally there are strong and weak ones. Jiushan continent. It is one of the strongest planes in the battlefield. It is said that this is the first batch of continents designated to enter here, and it overwhelmed other worlds in the plane battle, and became the king of the plane. In the early days, the plane battlefield was mainly dominated by hegemony and killing. Later, as more planes joined, the rules changed with the times. The title of King of Planes has long been cancelled, and it has become a place of chaos. Although the title is a thing of the past, as one of the veteran worlds in the battlefield, Jiushan continent's strength is absolutely unquestionable, so warriors from other planes usually dare not take the initiative to provoke it. Of course, this powerful plane has already met the requirements. The entrance to the plane battlefield is Changliu continent, which has become a place for people to train. To put it bluntly, many new planes are still trying to expand their bases and fighting for merit points. Jiushan continent has been out of the way and only regards it as a place for training. Jiushan continent? Jun Changxiao has never heard of it. However, judging from the momentum of the 2 old men, their strength should be stronger than Shen Yuanxi who just fainted. Dear participants, there are more than 300 planes in the plane battlefield. Jiushan continent belongs to the first echelon and is very powerful, the female system explained. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. That's a bit amazing. There are a total of 9 echelons in the battlefield. The female system said sweetly, your Zingan continent belongs to the 9th echelon, the worst and the bottom one. Jun Changxiao almost vomited blood. I knew it would be like this, but I didn't dare to ask. She took the initiative to say it. Is she deliberately attacking me? Dear participants, don't be too discouraged. Everyone grows up from a child. As long as you get beaten and abused a few more times, you will gradually become stronger. Muah. The female system said. Jun Changxiao wanted to cry. 2 Earth character masters from the 9 heavens continent appeared, and the atmosphere became more solemn. These 2 celebrities. The kind-hearted man narrowed his eyes and smiled. They are our prey. Do you have any objection? His tone was gentle and amiable, but there was an unquestionable momentum in his words. The faces of thousands of warriors present changed slightly, and they hurriedly said in unison, no objection. No objection. To show that they really had no objection, they retreated to the back and vacated the space in this area for the 2 Earth character masters from the 9 heavens continent. Heh. Jun Chang laughed. How domineering. The angry villain glared at the Purple Ridge Demon King and said in a cold voice, you are so naked in broad daylight. Do you have any shame? What's your business if I'm happy? The Purple Ridge Demon King folded his hands, his face full of pride. The angry villain looked very fierce and must have a bad temper. His eyes suddenly erupted with anger. You too. Sect Master Jun said, are you from the 9 heavens continent going to get involved and become enemies with my Zingan continent? This little friend. The kind-hearted man smiled and said, we are just here to catch wanted criminals. We don't want to make enemies with any plane. Although the 9 heavens continent is powerful, it will not take the initiative to start a big fight because it has completed its mission early. It is a neutral party in the plain battlefield. Occasionally, it will act as a world police to catch wanted criminals and earn a lot of merit points. The one you want to catch is my sect master, so. Jun Chang laughed seriously. That's the enemy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 890, Establishing Authority. You want to capture my sect leader, so, that's the enemy. When Jun Changxiao finished speaking, all the powerful people present showed contempt on their faces. A certain plain powerhouse said coldly, boy, I've heard of your Zingan continent. From the perspective of the plain battlefield level, you are probably only the 9th echelon. You are not even a fart in front of the 1st echelon of Jiushan continent. What qualifications do you have to be an enemy? The words are unpleasant to hear, but they are also true. In the face of absolute strength, weak beings are not even qualified to be enemies. For example, Qin Horan, the former leader of the 100 Sects Alliance, could jump around in front of Jun Changxiao at the beginning, but when the latter became more and more powerful, he was not qualified to be an enemy and could only be an ant at the foot of the mountain. Just entered the battlefield clean, and before you have developed your own territory, you have begun to fantasize about becoming an enemy with the 1st echelon. You are typical of thinking of yourself as a root. Pa. Before the strong man finished speaking, Ding Xingwan walked out of the space, put a hand on his neck, and said coldly, you talk too much nonsense. No. Bang. 5 kinds of strong evil spirits roared into his body, causing his body to quickly turn black, and then exploded on the spot. The kind-hearted man and the angry-eyed evil man frowned. Dare to wipe people out so unscrupulously in front of him. The warriors of the Zingan continent are quite arrogant. You too. Jun Chang smiled and said, if you from the Jiushan continent must participate, I don't mind using you to establish my authority today. Establish authority? The smile on the kind-hearted man's face became even angrier, and the anger on the angry-eyed evil man's face became even more angry. After being in the battlefield for so long, I have killed many red names and met many arrogant people, but I have never seen such an arrogant and presumptuous little guy. You deserve to die. You dare to provoke the warriors of the 9 heavens continent like this. No one in heaven or on earth can save you. How can you survive on the battlefield in the future if you offend the 1st tier plane? Everyone muttered in their hearts. The kind-hearted man asked, "What's your name, young friend?" Jun Changxiao said loudly, "The leader of the most powerful sect in Qingyang County of Xinjiang Continent, Jun Changxiao." "So it's sect leader Jun, I'm so sorry." The kind-hearted man smiled even more, and his eyes almost narrowed into a line. The warriors who were familiar with his style saw this and hurriedly retreated, thinking, "This Nine Heavens Continent strongman is going to take action." The angry evil man next to him stared with his eyes wide open, locked on the Purple Ridge Demon King. He wanted to kill this guy who violated customs with a palm. The Purple Ridge Demon King said calmly, "Look, do you believe me? I will dig out your eyeballs." Hoo. As soon as the words fell, the long robe of the angry evil man suddenly swelled up, and a vast wave of air burst out, forming a cloud of mist pressing down. At that moment, the stronghold area was filled with terrifying pressure. Hoo. The clouds and mist rushed down, as if turning into thousands of troops. TSK. The Purple Ridge Demon King snorted coldly, turned into a purple streamer and rushed over, condensing his fists and directly hitting the pressing clouds and mist. "Looking for death?" The angry evil man shouted coldly. Several white beards fluttered, and the airwaves bursting out of his body poured into the clouds and mist, and instantly gathered into a group of ahuts that seemed to be materialized. He is indeed a powerful earth character strongman. When this move was performed, the whole world seemed to lose all color. Boom. 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 The Purple Ridge Demon King was not a pushover either. He punched out with a force that seemed to cut off the river and the sea, directly destroying all the ahuts that attacked him. Fancy moves were nothing but paper tigers in front of absolute power. Whoosh. After destroying dozens of physical ahuts, the Purple Ridge Demon King was still sprinting, and finally broke through the clouds and mist to kill the angry villain, who obviously did not expect that the other party could break the Cloud Realm ahut art so easily. There was no time to consider, because the other party had already attacked. Ming Xinji. Bus. The angry villain waved his hand, and a defensive barrier like a mirror condensed in front of him, exuding a heavy momentum. Boom. At this moment, the Purple Ridge Demon King's powerful fist hit it directly, and the area in contact with it immediately rippled and spread to the surroundings. Buzz buzz buzz. The affected space was distorted and even gradually collapsed. The warriors were stunned. The residual power of this punch could shatter the space. The opponent's strength was definitely not ordinary. The angry villain also realized it, but now he felt very uncomfortable, because the condensed barrier was about to collapse under the huge impact. Break. The Purple Ridge Demon King shouted and punched it again. Bang. Finally, under the explosive fist, the barrier that the angry evil man had gathered in front of him suddenly collapsed, turned into pieces, and then flew out, and disappeared into the void. Get out. The Purple Ridge Demon King condensed a purple fist and blasted over. Bang. The angry evil man, whose defensive barrier was broken, had no time to fly out, and his chest was hit by the opponent's punch, and he immediately fell diagonally like a cannonball. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The angry evil man's scalp was close to the ground, and flew far away until he stopped. A trench about several feet wide, and about 100 feet long appeared in his field of vision. Fuck. Jun Changxiao said in surprise. So awesome? He knew that the Purple Ridge Demon King's cultivation had recovered to the level before he was sealed, but he didn't expect that when he really exploded, he would be so strong that the earth level strongman couldn't resist. The warriors were also dumbfounded. I thought that the powerful man from the Nine Heavens continent would be in trouble, but he was blasted out by the latter after just a few moves. Humph. The Purple Ridge Demon King was suspended in the air, surrounded by purple light, and said, "Trash." The Night Emperor often said these two words, but at this moment, he was undoubtedly more qualified and more imposing when he said them. Boom. Suddenly, there was a bang behind him, and a heavy fist with condensed energy hit the back of the Purple Ridge Demon King fiercely. This punch was very powerful, and the ripples also disturbed the space. However, the Purple Ridge Demon King, who was suddenly bombarded, still stood in place, and did not even move forward a little bit. The kind-hearted man crossed his hands, opened his squinting eyes, and his eyes flashed with disbelief. He seized the opportunity and displayed a powerful martial art. The naked guy should not stand in place, but fly out like the angry villain. But in the end, he was as stable as Mount A. Damn it. Jun Chang laughed and cursed. So you're a smiling tiger. Despicable guy, die for me. The purple demon king turned around, gathered purple energy, and rushed over angrily. Boom. 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 The overwhelming purple energy exploded and gathered into dense fist marks in the air. The kind-hearted man was immediately blasted into a mess, and there was nowhere to hide. All the warriors were completely stunned. The two Earth character strongmen of the Jiushan continent couldn't do anything to the exhibitionist. Chapter 891. My handsome face is totally ruined today. Bang. Bang. The purple light sometimes shuttled through the air, and sometimes exploded. Although the kind-hearted man wanted to resist, all he could do in the face of the overbearing power was to unlock various postures to resist. The warriors were stunned. Why weren't they stunned? Because the Purple Ridge Demon King attacked too fast, and couldn't catch the attack at all. Boom. A few minutes later, the earth trembled and rolled up dust. When everything dissipated, a pit dozens of feet deep appeared. The kind-hearted man who was originally smiling was in tatters, with a bruised face, and lying in the deepest part. Ding Xing Wang and King Bakyu twitched their mouths slightly. I thought that facing the two Earth character strongmen from the Jiushan continent, I needed to give it a try, but in the end, they were all solved by that guy. Swish. The Purple Ridge Demon King slowly descended, hanging a few feet above the deep pit. He raised his hand and said, "You can't even attack me with a sneak attack. What's the point of you living in this world?" Who? Purple energy burst out from his body, turning into materialized fists, and it was obvious that he was going to ravage him crazily. "Leave it to me." Jun Chang laughed and stopped him. The Purple Ridge Demon King removed the energy, but just as he was about to leave, he saw that guy put his hands on his chest, so he spread his legs with a collapsed expression and roared, "Look, a big pervert." Pervert? Everyone looked over and saw that guy put his hands on his chest, then made a heart shape, shouted go, pushed it out, and said, "My darling baby." Swish. The Shionian Soul Calming Tower flew out, fell into the deep pit and quickly expanded, and finally suppressed the kind-hearted man with a boom. Cap. The whole audience was silent. The expressions on the faces of all the warriors present were completely frozen. Is this something a man would do? Is this something a man can say? Thinking of Jun Changxiao's actions and words just now, everyone shuddered involuntarily. Damn. So disgusting. Wow. A straight man recalled the actions Jun Changxiao had just made, and couldn't help vomiting. Wow. The chain reaction set off, and many warriors followed suit and vomited. Not only them, Lu Kai and Qian, Yiwudi, Jiangzi and others either frowned or twitched at the corners of their mouths. Jun Changxiao, who made a shameful move in public, didn't blush at all, and muttered in his heart, "Why didn't you prompt the reward?" Could it be that the guy hasn't reached the point of being seriously injured and fainted? Swish. He waved his hand to take back the Shionian Soul Calming Tower. Sure enough, the kind-hearted man who was suppressed at the bottom was more embarrassed than before, but he was only seriously injured, still had thoughts, and could open his eyes. But, damn. He made a weak voice in anger, and was about to silently perform some kind of escape technique. At this moment, Jun Changxiao made another heart-shaped gesture. The benevolent man just saw it, and his eyes suddenly glazed over. He swore that he had walked a lot in his life, eaten a lot of rice, traveled a lot and had a wide range of experience, but he had never seen a man do such a shameful action. Puff. The injury was not suppressed, and blood spurted out directly. The shameful action made by Jun Changxiao made the Earth character strongman unable to control his mind, and spurted blood on the spot, which shows how terrible the lethality is. Go. My sweetheart. Puff. Hearing this, the benevolent man spurted blood again, and even interrupted the thought of using the secret method to escape. Hoo-hoo. Suddenly, the vision became extremely dark, and the Shionian Soul Suppressing Tower pressed down hard. Boom. The earth trembled again, and the desolate atmosphere disturbed the surroundings. Congratulations to the participant for taking the first blood of the Nine Heavens Continent Warrior, and obtaining 100 points of merit. A female system prompt came from my ear. Jun Changxiao waved his hand with satisfaction, and took back the Shionian Soul Calming Tower. However, the kind-hearted man was just unconscious in the pit, with heartbeats and breathing sounds, so he shook his head and said, "It will take more hits." to kill a strong man with the character Earth. Wow. The Purple Ridge Demon King vomited in the distance. Seeing Jun Changxiao perform shameful actions 3 times in a row, he finally couldn't help it. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers looked very unhappy. After all, forcing themselves not to vomit was really harmful to the body. In front of everyone, in public, making shameful actions, and shouting shameful words. This is definitely not something that ordinary people can do, because they still have face. Of course, Jun Changxiao also has face. However, as long as he can defeat his opponent, he won't care. There is another one. Turning around, Jun Chang smiled and looked into the distance. Little boy. The angry villain stood up with difficulty, his eyes wide open, and said, I will remember this grudge. The strength of the Purple Ridge Demon King made him realize that he was no match for him, so he had the idea of escaping. Swish, swish. At this moment, Ding Xingwang and King Baikyu appeared out of thin air. The two stood in the sky, and a vast momentum burst out wantonly, instantly folding the surrounding space. Saint-level strongmen can travel through space, but if they disrupt the environment, they dare not mess around, because if they accidentally travel to the deepest level of the void, they will never be able to get out. HMPH. The angry-eyed kind man sneered and said, do you think you can stop me like this? Naive. Swish, swish, swish. The handprint was quickly performed, and the long-distance running started without wind. He chanted, 9 heavens, 8 wastelands, 7 stars, 6. Hoo-hoo. Congratulations to the participants for defeating the Earth-level strongman and gaining 20 merit points. Jun Changxiao ignored the prompt and hurriedly communicated with the spirit in the tower, saying, I didn't make the heart gesture just now. How could I throw the Shianeo and Soul Calming Tower out? That's it, Master. Eraya explained. Just shout out the mantra, and it will start normally. I added the heart gesture myself. The expression on Jun Changxiao's face gradually hardened. After all the fuss, just shouting go, my darling can activate the treasure. I actually made the heart gesture several times in a row, and in front of so many people. Why didn't you say it earlier? The master didn't ask. Jun Changxiao glanced at the warriors around him who were still stunned, grabbed his hair, and said in despair, my handsome face is completely ruined today. Chapter 892. Concerns of the Falling Star Continent. Outside the stronghold, there was silence. The expressions on the faces of the thousands of warriors present were still frozen. Some of them were due to shameless actions, and some were due to the fact that to Earth character strongmen from the 9 heavens continent were tortured to death. Everyone. Jun Changxiao sat on the chair, crossed his legs and said, whether you are qualified to be an enemy of the first tier plane is not based on words, but on strength. The eyes of the warriors in each plane gradually became fearful. The 2 Earth character strongmen were severely injured and fainted in a short period of time. This Zingayan continent is definitely a hard point. Don't provoke. Don't provoke. Retreat. Swish. 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 The warriors in each plane immediately used their body skills to explode and fly away. The speed was so fast that it seemed like they were rushing to reincarnate. Jun Changxiao didn't order everyone to chase and kill. After all, this was the second time he came to the plane battlefield. He had killed a lot in just a few hours. Zilin Demon King and others were also red names. He rested first and then rolled up his sleeves to work. Since he was here, he had to have a good time. First, he severely damaged Shen Yuanxi of the Red Sea continent, and then he eliminated the 2 Earth character masters of the 9 heavens continent. Jun Changxiao's prestige was quite successful. The most proof of this is that the warriors who were pulled by the 3 red lights saw the warriors of other planes escaping from the target area, as if they were running for their lives, and asked about the situation in confusion. What? The kind-hearted and angry-eyed evil people of the 9 heavens continent were tortured to death. Impossible. After the warriors of each plane confirmed the authenticity of the matter again and again, they hurriedly gave up the idea of catching the wanted criminal, and then turned back the way they came. If there is an existence that even the Earth character masters can't beat, wouldn't it be suicide to go there? The star meteorite continent can't afford to offend. Forget it. Forget it. Let's just watch the fun. Otherwise we won't get 500 merit points and lose our lives instead. That makes sense. That makes sense. many warriors of the plains have become wary of the star meteorite continent. Of course, some people were thinking that, since 2 Earth level warriors were tortured to death, the 9 Heavens continent might not stop there. It is believed that it will not be long before more warriors will be sent to cause trouble. There is also the Red Sea continent. Many warriors in this plane were killed by the star meteoric continent, and it is definitely not over yet. So, someone said, don't we have a good show to watch? The star meteoric continent should have just been designated to enter the plane battlefield. It has offended so many planes in succession, and it has also offended the first tier 9 Heavens continent. It will have a hard time in the future. I heard that the leader is Jun Changxiao, the leader of the eternal Strongest Sect in the star meteoric continent. He is not very old, but he is very arrogant. The plane battlefield is not like the Earth level of one's own family. If you behave too arrogantly, you will definitely have to pay the price. In a short time, the news about Jun Changxiao of the star meteoric continent and the torture of the 9 Heavens continent's strong men spread wildly in the plane battlefield, and became the focus of everyone's discussion. Wait, where are the kind-hearted man and the angry-eyed evil man? Bang, bang. Outside the Zingayan continent stronghold, he Woody planted 2 large pillars, and tied the unconscious kind-hearted man and the angry-eyed evil man to them one by one. Woody. Jun Changxiao sat in the stronghold, drank a sip of tea and said, be careful, don't hurt anyone, otherwise it will be difficult to explain to the Jiushan continent. He Woody was speechless. You didn't show any mercy when you suppressed them with the tower. Master. Jiangzi said worriedly, what if they send more strong men? Even rabbits bite when they are cornered. Jun Changxiao smiled coldly and said, if you don't cooperate or bully others, the worst that can happen is that you will be killed. Jelao said, it's not difficult to see from the eyes of warriors from other planes that the 9 Heavens continent seems to be very strong. It's a bit bad for us to make enemies with them when we first arrive, right? It's not good. Jun Changxiao put down the teacup and said, but at this point, there is no way back. We can only ignore life and death and fight if we don't accept it. He didn't want to be an enemy of the higher level planes. He just wanted to develop and expand his base in the battlefield steadily, and then focus on the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent. But, some troubles can't be avoided. For example, the 2 Earth character strongman from the 9 Heavens continent. If you have to take the 3 red named Zalonglong, do you have to clean your neck and send it over? HMPH. The Purple and Demon King put on a brand new school uniform and said calmly, if they dare to come again, I will knock them all down. Woody. Jun Chang smiled and said, the corpses outside are an eyesore, find a way to get rid of them. Yes. He Woody walked out and piled up all the corpses scattered on the ground. Most of the dead were from the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent. And this is the fate of always thinking of Jun Changxiao. Zingayan continent. In the altar, several old men sat cross-legged together, discussing something, with tangled expressions on their faces from time to time. Everyone. The high priest sighed, relying on the only channel. I learned that there are more than 300 planes in the plane battlefield. More than 300? The faces of several old men suddenly changed. According to the minimum of 2,000 people sent in, there must be at least more than 600,000 emperor-level strongmen. This scene is totally unimaginable. The high priest continued, the levels on the battlefield are divided into 4 levels, heaven, earth, black and yellow, and the plane strength is also divided into 9 echelons. Our Zingayan continent should belong to the lowest 9th echelon. Everyone shook their heads bitterly. There are 4 first echelons, namely Jiushan continent, Haohan continent, Lingayan continent and Shallow continent. High priest, is the first echelon strong? Someone asked. The high priest said seriously, according to the information we have received, the 4 first tier planes are extremely powerful. Even the most glorious ancient times of the Starfall continent could not compete with them. Everyone was silent. The high priest said again, although the 4 first tier planes are strong, they have already completed the tasks assigned by the upper realm. The warriors are mainly looking for treasures and training, and will not easily target other planes. Everyone was relieved. But, the high priest said with a frown, other planes are not peaceful. As far as I know, planes such as the Red Sea continent and the Soaring Cloud continent have always liked to bully new planes. What level? It is impossible to detect it for the time being, but it is definitely higher than our Starfall continent. What does the High Priest mean? 5 years later, when we enter the plane battlefield, we must pay special attention to the warriors of the Red Sea continent and the Soaring Cloud continent? That's right. The High Priest said solemnly, if you meet them, run away if you can, and never fight them head on. What if they chase you relentlessly? Someone said. The High Priest sighed, his eyes full of vicissitudes, and said, then we can only leave it to fate. High Priest. An old man said resolutely, the plane battlefield 5 years later will be a disaster for our Xingqiu continent. We have made up our minds to fight to the death. This kind of thing cannot be resolved by determination. Without real strength, it will be. The High Priest did not say anything more, so he changed his words and said, tell these things to City Lord Han and the leaders of the major sects, so that they can be mentally prepared. Yes. In a short time, the strong men who were selected to go to the plane battlefield 5 years later received the news, and all of them murmured with sad faces, Red Sea continent, Lingayan continent. Be careful if you encounter them in there. Who? Flames burned in the plane battlefield. The bodies of warriors from the Red Sea continent and Lingayan continent were gradually burned into nothingness. If the worried Xingqiu continent strongmen saw that the plane warriors they were worried about were cremated like this, I don't know what wonderful expressions would appear on their faces. Chapter 893. Are you here to redeem someone? After several battles, the strongholds of Xingqiu continent have been extended a lot. Jun Changxiao sat in front of the hall and murmured, it's easy to expand this place to the scale of a town. The system said, with the strength of Zilin Demon King and others who can kill a large number of people, it is easy to expand the territory, but it will also offend more planes and make yourself the target of public criticism. It doesn't matter. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, others can't get in. The stronghold is equivalent to an absolute safe zone, which is his capital to be fearless in the battlefield. What's more, even if they can really get in, it's okay, he still has a portal. The worst thing is to pat his butt and take his disciples away. The plane battlefield is Jun Gaosheng's back garden. If you like to come and play, you can play. If you don't like to leave, as long as it is not interrupted for a year, the stronghold will always exist. The female system prompt sounded, dear participant, when the stronghold reaches a certain scale, it will not be permanently protected. What do you mean? Jun Changxiao was stunned. The female system explained, according to the rules of the upper realm, when a plane base is built to a certain scale, it will be considered to have a foothold. At that time, it can declare war on other planes, and vice versa. It can also be declared war by other planes. This is called a plane attack and defense war. What are the consequences of failing to be declared war? If the base is breached, all efforts will be turned into nothingness. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Doesn't this mean that it is just like a siege war in a game? Or is it that the battlefield opened up by the upper realm is actually a game, and he and other plane warriors can only follow their rules and move like chess pieces? It's a bit unhappy. Jun Changxiao clenched his fists. As the protagonist of my own destiny, I naturally don't want to be a chess piece in someone else's game. Of course. The female system said, if the party declaring war can break through the base of the party declared war, it can not only expand its own territory and receive their spoils, but also obtain a large amount of merit value rewards. Jun Changxiao's eyes suddenly lit up. Although I don't know what good things the merit points can be exchanged for, it is very important that after I become a red name, the warriors from all planes can surround and kill me regardless of everything. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, when I reach a certain level of base, I can declare war on other continents and plunder their resources openly? The system was speechless. This guy just killed so many plane warriors and made enemies with the Nine Heavens continent. Shouldn't he think that when the base develops, others will declare war on him? That's right. The female system said. Jun Changxiao grinned and said, it seems quite interesting. This mechanism is quite interesting, but there have been almost no cases of planes declaring war over the years, because the power to declare war and be declared war on when the base develops to a certain scale must be based on strength. If two planes start a war, even if they can really destroy one side, they will inevitably pay a heavy price. Unless there is an endless feud, no one will spend a lot of warriors and resources to attack each other's bases, because in the end it is often not worth the loss. 2,000 miles outside the Zingayan continent stronghold, there is a stronghold similar to a city, surrounded by walls. The flags flying on the towers have the words Red Sea Continent written on them. That's right. This is the Red Sea Continent stronghold. Judging from the area and the magnificent buildings, this plane is definitely not a low-level echelon. In the hall, an old man with long beard frowned and sat in the first seat, with worry and anger in his eyes. 4 old men sat in the second seat, also with worried faces. Palace Master. At this moment, an old man in a long robe walked in and shook his head and said, Elder Shen is too seriously injured. I'm afraid it will take at least several years of recuperation to recover. Pa. The old man with long beard slapped the armrest, stood up and said angrily, killing so many warriors of my Bahei Palace and severely injuring Elder Shen is really unforgivable. His name is Hang Yeo, the Palace Master of the Bahei Palace of the Red Sea Continent. Because the plane has long been established on the battlefield, after internal discussions, it was decided to send forces to take turns to guard it every 5 years. It just so happened that this time it was the turn of the Blue Sea Palace to guard the Red Sea Continent stronghold. If this sect is calculated according to the level of the star meteoric continent, it is definitely not inferior to or even stronger than the first-class sect of the Takeso Unholy Sect. Why? Because Palace Master Han not only has the earth-level cultivation, but the 4 elders sitting below are also comparable to martial saints. Counting the severely injured Shen Yuanzi, a sect has at least 6 martial saints, which is definitely beyond the reach of the first-class sects in the star meteoric continent. No wonder City Master Han and others had no hope when they learned that they were going to enter the plain battlefield. This is just one of the sects in the Red Sea continent. If a few more are sent in, even with the full force of the star meteoric continent, they may not be able to defeat them. Palace Master. Bring people to kill them. The old men below were filled with righteous indignation. At least 70% of the Red Sea continent warriors that Jun Changxiao killed on the battlefield were disciples of the Blue Sea Palace, so he definitely couldn't stand it. Moreover, the Red Sea continent has been established in the plain battlefield for at least 500 or 600 years. Although it is not the top echelon, it has always bullied others. How could it be bullied so badly by others? I'm willing to fight. Bring the head of Jun Changxiao to pay tribute to the dead. An elder of the Blue Sea Palace said angrily. Palace Master Hang sat down and said, I heard that the Samoyumu of the Nine Heavens continent was also severely injured. We don't need to force ourselves to take the lead. The disciples and senior leaders suffered heavy casualties, and Shelao was also beaten to lose his combat effectiveness, which made him very angry, but he did not lose his mind. He decided not to be the first to do it, and just wait and see. Palace Master. At this moment, someone came to report. The people of Jiushan continent dispatched 9 Earth character masters, and they are heading to the Xingai continent stronghold at a high speed. Palace Master Han was not surprised and said, they are going quite fast. Swish, swish. 9 magnificent streams of light flew across the sky of the battlefield, shocking the warriors from all planes to open their eyes wide. The 9 star elders of Jiushan continent. They are going to the Xingai continent stronghold. There will be something interesting to watch. Let's go. Warriors from all planes rushed to the Xingai continent stronghold in groups of 3 or 5. On the way, everyone thought that the Jiushan continent dispatched 9 Earth character masters at once, and the new warriors from the plains would definitely be scared silly. Jun Changxiao, who was drinking tea, felt the 9 pressures outside and walked out immediately. As soon as he stopped in front of the hall, he saw 9 powerful masters with great momentum hanging in the sky. There were 9 old men in their 70s, all wearing cyan robes. Some had beards. Some had goatees, and some were bald. Although they looked different, the auras they exuded were all strong and powerful. Just one look at them revealed that their strength was definitely at the earth level. So many saints? Ding Xingwang was secretly shocked. It was already very good to see 2 martial saints on weekdays in the Falling Star continent. Now that 9 of them were sent from other planes, it was really exciting. Jun Changxiao sat on the chair, put his right foot on it, and said with a smile, "Are you here to redeem people?" Chapter 894, Stealing People. After Jun Changxiao finished speaking, the Purple Ridge Demon King walked out of the stronghold, and then stopped in front of the two elders with kind eyebrows and angry eyes. He raised his left and right hands and directly clasped them on the head, with a sinister smile on his lips. The eyes of the 9 Earth character strongmen suddenly became cold. In fact, they had already seen the bound kind-hearted man and the angry-eyed evil man. They did not rescue them, because they thought that, since they were here, if Xinjiang continent had good eyesight, they would definitely let them go. It was typical that he took himself too seriously. If Jun Changxiao had good eyesight, he would not tie them to the pillars. 9. If you want them to live, exchange them for the martial arts resources used for cultivation in your plane, such as crystal cores, medicinal materials, ores, and spirit stones. The realm system of each plane is different, but the martial arts resources are roughly the same. The Jiushan continent, that Jun Changxiao said, really has them. However, when the 9 Earth character strongmen heard him say this, their old faces became even longer. At this time, they understood that Xinjiang continent tied up the kind-hearted man and the angry-eyed evil man to blackmail them. "Boy," the bold old man sneered, "you are so brave that you dare to blackmail my Jiushan continent. The timid will die of starvation, and the bold will die of gluttony." Jun Changxiao leaned forward, put his hands on his legs, and smiled. "Since it's death either way, I would rather die of gluttony than starve to death." The old man with a beard said, "I'm afraid that I'll give you something, but you won't be able to eat it to death. As long as you bring the ransom, you don't have to worry about the rest." Jun Changxiao said with a smile. The bold old man touched his shiny head and said, "What if we don't give things to ransom people?" Jun Changxiao casually took out a recommendation ticket from a reader from the space ring, gently tore it into strips, and said with a smile, "Of course it's to kill the hostage." "Kill the hostage?" The bold old man squinted his eyes and said, "If you dare, don't even think about leaving the base in the future. They can't get in, but they can block the door. The plane of the Xinjiang continent is so small, it must be developed, and one who comes out will be destroyed." Jun Changxiao was a little depressed. He controlled 2 powerful Earth-level warriors from their continent, but ended up being threatened. This is too embarrassing. No. Something must be done. Pa. Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers. Bang. Zilin Demon King received the order and punched the angry old man in the chest. Although the latter was unconscious, the attack involved damaged meridians, and he immediately spurted out a mouthful of blood. Seeing that their family members were seriously injured and were still being abused like this, the 9 old men all glared at him. The bald man said coldly, "Boy, you are looking for death. Stop talking nonsense." Jun Changxiao said impatiently, "One head costs 1 million natural spirit stones, 1 million high-quality crystal cores, and 1 million high-quality medicinal materials. If they can't take them out, I will kill them immediately. It's too tiring to pretend to be civilized, so you have to be barbaric and domineering." Bang. Zilin Demon King cooperated with the sect master very well, and punched the angry villain in the chest again, fully demonstrating what a villain is. The eyes of the 9 Earth-level warriors kept changing, and the anger and murderous intent emanating from their bodies became stronger and stronger. A low-level plane actually dared to blackmail so openly. How could it be tolerated? Bang. The Purple Ridge Demon King punched again. Wow. The angry evil man spurted blood again. If this guy was still conscious, he would definitely collapse and say, "Why do you always hit me? Why not hit him?" When the Purple Ridge Demon King attacked one after another, the warriors of the various planes had already flown over one after another and witnessed the whole process, and their expressions suddenly became wonderful. Tie the 2 men with kind eyebrows and angry eyes to the pillars, and let the 9-star continent pay the ransom to redeem them, and if they don't pay, they will kill them. The courage of the Xinjiang continent is really to the sky. Or, knowing that there is no way to reconcile, they simply choose to break the jar. Awesome. Really awesome. The warriors of the various planes admired Jun Changxiao's style. Of course, they also knew that, although it was fun to do so, it would also completely offend the 9 Heavens continent, and they would never be able to survive in the plane battlefield in the future. Bang. Crack. The Purple Ridge Demon King punched again, and the angry villain's sternum was broken. Seeing their own people being ravaged like this, the 9 Earth character strongmen were furious, and murderous intent filled the entire area. The space began to distort suddenly under the mixture of 9 kinds of explosive forces. The space barrier of the plane battlefield was very thick, but it could not withstand the collective release of so many strong men. Back off, back off. The warriors who were watching the excitement hurriedly evacuated further away, fearing that they would be affected. However, no matter how the strong men of the 9 Heavens continent exploded, the Zingayan continent stronghold was never disturbed. Master, Elder Ding said in a voice transmission, they probably won't pay the ransom. Be careful that they might attack and snatch people away. Yes. Jun Chang smiled and said, Master Z, make sure to control those 2 guys and don't let them be snatched away by the 9 Heavens continent. He could have killed the 2 men with a kind face and angry eyes, but the merit points were already obtained anyway, so why not maximize their value and earn more martial arts resources for himself? Humph. The Purple Demon King sneered and said, no one can snatch me away while I'm here. He was so confident when he used Rejoice. 8-fold space binding. Suddenly, the bold old man shouted angrily, and the surrounding space suddenly rippled. The sand and dust that were originally floating in the wind were still as if frozen. Space martial arts? Ding Xingwang's face suddenly changed. Space-type martial arts also exist in the Zingayan continent, but they are extremely rare, and they have been lost after the War of the Gods. Be careful. Ding Xingwang shouted, he's going to grab it. Boom. As soon as the words fell, a violent force sounded outside the stronghold, and the originally bound space was suddenly unsealed, rolling up clouds of dust. Swish. He used space martial arts to seal the space, trying to make the bald man who was snatched by the 2 men with kind eyebrows and angry eyes fly out of the dust, and then stopped in the air in an extremely embarrassed manner. Do you think I don't exist? The Purple Demon King appeared in the same place with his whole body exposed, and the school uniform he just put on was blown off again. How is it possible? The bald man was full of disbelief. Although the 8-layer space binding cannot be said to absolutely seal the space, it can at least seal it for a few breaths. It is no problem to take this opportunity to rescue people. But when he rushed over, the guy hit him with a heavy punch, and he was not bound by the space at all. No. It shouldn't be. It's a bit unbelievable that he wants to control the Demon King that can only be sealed by 5 martial saints together. Go. The old man with a beard shouted coldly, and then flew down. Swish. 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 The other 4 Earth level masters moved together. It was impossible to redeem him with the ransom, so they could only use their strength to snatch him away. They just didn't believe that the 9 of them couldn't snatch back the kind-faced and angry man from an opponent who seemed to be of the same level. Rubbish. Facing the 5 Earth level masters who were suppressing him, the Purple Ridge Demon King sneered and then spread his hands. An extremely violent energy suddenly emerged from his body and then rushed towards the sky like a curtain of light. What a strong demonic aura. This guy's not human. Chapter 895. Purple Demon King vs 5 Earth Character Masters. The 5 Earth Character strongmen who rushed over felt the violent aura, and their faces all changed in shock. Hoo-hoo. At this moment, the light curtain that seemed to reach the sky, like a huge wave, pressed down, and the whole world instantly became dim. Seeing the Purple Ridge Demon King making such a big fuss, Jun Changxiao was surprised and relieved and secretly said, it is the wisest choice to control this guy with food and use him for yourself. The 9-star elders from the Starfall continent are very powerful. Ding Xingwan can only compete with 1, and it is impossible to compete with so many. The Purple Ridge Demon King, who has recovered to his pre-sealing strength, is not afraid at all, especially when facing the 5 Earth character strongmen who are coming to kill him, but dares to compete with them head-on. Jun Changxiao has made a fortune by controlling him. How far he can go in the plain battlefield this time depends entirely on the upper limit of this guy's strength. Boom. 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 In an instant, the purple energy pressed down like a wave and collided with the 5 Earth level warriors. The entire space was violently turbulent, and finally it could not support the force and began to collapse on a large scale. The warriors from all planes were stunned. This kind of melee among Earth level warriors is rare even in the plain battlefield. and the wanted purple-haired exhibitionist is too terrifying. Dare he dare to confront the 5 Earth level warriors directly? Fortunately, I didn't kill him before, otherwise I would have become a corpse. Many warriors secretly rejoiced that they did not lose their rationality for 500 merit points. Swish, swish. At this moment, in the huge energy fluctuations, the bearded man and the goatee old man flew out, emitting thousands of feet of light all over their bodies, gathering violent power to press down. Their original intention was not to fight, but to rob people. Get out. The purple cliff demon king roared angrily, and slammed his left and right fists into the void. At the same time as the space collapsed, the purple energy formed a giant fist and directly engaged in a head-on collision with the 2 Earth-level strongmen. Crack, crack, crack. The ground under his feet shattered and extended infinitely outward. Boom, boom. A deafening roar came, and the bearded man and the goat man collided with the purple cliff demon king head-on, exploded backwards, and the expressions on their faces suddenly became ugly. The physical strength of this non-human guy is very terrifying. Only beasts who focus on tempering their bodies and strength can do this. What makes them more certain is that the other 2 companions took the opportunity to rush over, condensed earth-shaking killing moves and slammed down, but were taken by the purple cliff demon king with his physical body and stood proudly in place. Oh my god. That guy's physical defense is too terrible. Warriors from all walks of life said in horror. The Earth character strongman could turn himself into ashes in an instant with just a wave of his hand, and now he used martial arts that made the world pale in comparison, and slammed into the opponent without even taking a step back. The scene was simply terrifying. After the Purple Ridge Demon King endured the bombardment, his eyes flashed with monstrous anger. Who? The violent energy gathered in midair and formed a fist, which directly knocked out the 2 sneak-attacked warriors from the 9 Heavens continent. He had no martial arts and had been relying on his sturdy physical strength to contend with several Earth character strongmen from beginning to end. He was not inferior to the other party in terms of momentum and power. This is the Demon King from the upper realm. Just by recovering to the state before being sealed, he can compete with the 5 martial saints without losing the upper hand. If he reaches his former peak, who in the lower realm can match him? Awesome. Jun Changxiao said admiringly. Jiangzi, the Ning brothers and others were stunned. They didn't expect that the exhibitionist who would burst his clothes at any time would have such terrifying fighting power. He Woody thought to himself, this guy came down from a higher plane like me. How strong was he before? Swish. Just at this moment, the space was slightly turbulent. Ding Xing Wang flew out from the darkness, and the power of the 5 absolutes condensed in his palm and blasted over. The sudden sneak attack was hard to guard against. The strong man with the character D was knocked away by the Purple Cliff Demon King again. His body was in a temporary imbalance and he couldn't dodge at all. He could only take the palm print on his back and fell to the ground with a bang. Hiss. He stood up with difficulty, his face slightly ferocious. At this moment, a black palm print appeared behind him, and 5 kinds of domineering evil spirits were madly attacking the meridians in the sea of consciousness. Although it would be difficult to do anything to him for a while, he had to distract himself to resist and resolve them, which was equivalent to weakening his combat effectiveness. Hoo-hoo. Just after Ding Xing Wang succeeded in his sneak attack, 2 Earth character strongmen from the Jiushan continent attacked from both sides. The speed was very fast. The power was very strong. Ding Xing Wang couldn't dodge by space travel, so he could only condense the 5 absolute palm prints to face one of them, and the other opponent was handed over to. Boom. King Baekyu rushed over at a high speed, his big hand suddenly stretched out, caught the Earth character strongman's bombardment, and relied on the unique strong power of the Beast Clan to shake the opponent away. Boom. Without the pressure from the other side, Ding Xing Wang successfully fought with the Earth character strongman on the left. The 2 were equally strong, and retreated several steps. This guy's not human either. Everyone looked at King Baekyu, and felt the violent aura. They wondered in their hearts, is Zingayan continent a world dominated by beastmen? Hoo-hoo. As everyone was guessing, King Baekyu bent down, his back bulged quickly, and his body suddenly became huge, showing the form of a big-eyed beast. Die. The huge arm pressed down on a Earth character strongman like a mountain. Under the burst of power, the space was squeezed and cracked. Not good. The face of the locked strongman changed in shock. He didn't care whether his body movements were graceful at all and fled in an extremely embarrassed posture. Bang. Hoo. Although he barely dodged it, King Baekyu pressed down with his other hand again, and his speed and strength were faster than the other hand. Boom. The earth character strongman dodged the first palm, but failed to dodge the second palm, and was immediately pressed into the pit by the palm print as heavy as a mountain. King Baekyu did not give up. He retracted his hand and raised his big foot to stomp. A giant with big eyeballs was stomping madly. The picture was very beautiful. Boom. 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 The earth shook frequently, and the soil cracked in large quantities. Until King Baekyu stopped, the earth character strongman was lying in the center of the deep pit of footprints with blood dripping, and he was also trampled and seriously injured. The 9 earth character strongmen sent by Jiushan continent are nothing more than a large number of people. If they were to compete in a single round, Ding Xingwang and King Baekyu would not necessarily be weak. Beautiful. Sect Master Jun laughed. One of the 9 earth character strongmen was injured and one was beaten badly, so it would be much easier to deal with the remaining 7. At the beginning, Sect Master Jun thought that the other party would use martial arts resources to redeem the hostages, which would be a happy ending for everyone. Now that the Purple Ridge Demon King has behaved so horribly, he has a bold idea to keep all 9 people and increase the bargaining chips for negotiations with the 9 Heavens continent. Master Z. Jun Changxiao said in a voice transmission, "Don't be passive and defensive, solve them if you can." Okay. The Purple Ridge Demon King's eyes flashed with fighting intent, and he flew up with a bang, carrying a terrifying purple power, and killed several earth character strongmen. He wanted to rush out a long time ago, but the sect master ordered that he must keep an eye on the hostages. As soon as this guy went out, the kind-hearted and angry evil man lost their care. It should have been a good time to rob, but the 7 earth character strongmen didn't have this idea because they had all been targeted. P.S. Fortunately, there was no mistake, and 15 more chapters were posted in a row. Please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 896, Kill the Earth Level Strong Man. That's right. The 7 Earth character masters from the Jiushan continent were targeted by 3 from the Xinjiang continent. Ding Xingwang was 1. Baekyu King was 1. The remaining 5 were targeted by the Purple Ridge Demon King. The bald man said angrily, "Kill this exhibitionist, the other 2 are nothing to be afraid of." These people are not stupid, they know that the Purple Ridge Demon King is the strongest. As long as he is solved, the remaining 2 will not be a problem. Swish. Swish. The 5 Earth character masters rushed over tacitly, each releasing the strongest light, and instantly fought with the Purple Ridge Demon King. Crazytsa Hand. Dragon Dance of the Universe. Blue Flame Hegemony Curse. Various high-quality and high-powered martial arts exploded in the sky outside the Xinjiang continent stronghold, and the colorful energy generated was absolutely impossible without a 4-way Titan graphics card. All the warriors were stunned. The purple-haired exhibitionist actually challenged 5 martial saints by himself, and judging from the violent momentum he exuded, he was not at a disadvantage. Too awesome. Too scary. Boom. Boom. Above the Xinjiang continent stronghold, violent energy roared, and the space was shattered. Ding Xingwang was fighting with a strong man, using all kinds of insidious moves, making the opponent unable to defend, so he gradually gained the upper hand. Not to mention King Baekyu, who was completely suppressing a strong man with the character D. However, their fight was far inferior to that of the Purple Ridge Demon King. After all, this guy was fighting 1 against 5 with great confidence. Hoo. Various high-level martial arts roared wildly, and the Purple Ridge Demon King took them down with just the strength of his flesh, and then launched a cold and fierce offensive, forcing his opponents back repeatedly. All the warriors were stunned. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers and others were also stunned. 1 against 5. Not losing the wind. How majestic. Swish. Jun Changxiao stood up, put on the true Yang mask on his face, and said, "It's time to show real skills." From the situation, the 2 sides fought very fiercely, but they were in a stalemate. If there is a change, there must be uncertain factors. Jun Gaosheng, who has a set of top-grade equipment and the strength of a half-step martial saint, is very suitable to be this uncertain factor. The main reason is that the Purple Ridge Demon King is too popular. If I don't do something, won't I be laughed at? Boom. At this moment, there was a bang outside the stronghold, and the bald guy was hit by a heavy punch from the Purple Ridge Demon King. The opportunity has come. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up, and he immediately controlled the mechanical armed wings and flew out. The true Yang sword in his hand contained a dazzling light. When the opponent was about to land, he slashed it. Whoosh, the sword energy was crisscrossed, tearing the space. The bald guy who barely stood on the ground hurriedly retreated regardless of everything, only to see the unparalleled sword energy just brushing against his scalp. Although he barely dodged the attack, he was shocked in his heart, because the strength contained in the sword energy was enough to show that the other party had a very deep understanding of the sword. This boy. Don't underestimate him either. Swish. Swish. Jun Changxiao came quickly and performed a one-word sword technique, and then sword energy suddenly appeared like a net. All the magic is added to my body. The bald man shouted, and his body was shining, forming layers of protective shields. Ding ding ding. The sword energy hit it and made a crisp sound, but it also showed cracks under the frequent bombardment until the last sword pressed down, like the last straw that broke the camel's back, and it exploded with a bang. The light in the sky dissipated. Puff. The bald man spurted out a mouthful of blood. He was already extremely embarrassed after being hit by the Purple Ridge Demon King, and his defensive moves were broken in a hurry, which immediately brought a double backlash, and his meridians were damaged in many places. Die. Jun Changxiao's eyes turned cold, and he rushed over again. He didn't approach stupidly, and shook out the sword art again, forming a dense sword attack. The bald guy didn't dare to fight hard, and hurriedly flew out. Although he rushed out of the sword net attack, his right arm was inevitably cut by sword marks, and blood flowed down. The warrior's eyes widened immediately. The momentum that guy exuded was only at the highest level of Zuan, but he could actually injure a D. Could it be that the shuriken weapon was extraordinary? Sorry, not only swords. The combat boots on his feet, the armor on his body, the mechanical wings behind him, and even the mask he wore were all extraordinary items. The combination of these things provided a very significant strength. Jun Changxiao is now our MB warrior, and he is still holding a dragon-slaying sword. Swish. The armed wings and the power of flight merged, and he flew away, then raised his sword and chopped at the bald guy frantically. Come and see. The Krypton Guild players are bullying the liver players. Swish. Swish. The sword shadows are crisscrossed, and the swords are rippling. Jun Changxiao released his kendo talent to the extreme, and exerted the Lingjian divine art to the extreme. At that moment, the surrounding air was suppressed by the strong sword power, and wherever the sword light passed, there were sword marks in the space. In a short period of time, the injured bald guy was suppressed by Jun Changxiao, and suffered terribly, until he flew out of the battle area with difficulty. More than a dozen wounds appeared on his body, and blood was all over his body. He became a real celebrity. Boom. Boom. On the other side, the Purple Ridge Demon King was still fighting the 4 Earth character warriors alone, but because there was one less person, he felt much more relaxed, and his moves became more and more powerful. The bearded man, the goat man and others were depressed. Without a companion to restrain them, the pressure was obviously much greater than before. Boom. At this moment, Ding Xingwang successfully sneak attacked his opponent with a sinister move, knocking him to the ground, and a black palm print appeared behind him. Swish. Jun Changxiao seized the opportunity, suddenly turned around, and killed the Earth character warrior who was fighting against the evil spirit of the 5 absolutes. Kakaka. In a very short time, the arm holding the sword quickly entered the combat state. Sword ki traverses 30,000 miles. One sword light chills the 19 continents. Jun Changxiao shouted loudly, swung his sword, and slashed it down, and a stream of unparalleled sword energy rippled out of the space, tearing it down with the momentum of crossing rivers. The Earth character strongman who was fighting against the evil spirits of the 5 absolutes in his body, felt something was wrong, and then he moved his body in a panic. Puchy. Blood splattered, and the arm fell to the ground. Jun Changxiao's sword was very fast and clean. The Earth character strongman didn't realize that his right arm had been cut off until he dodged, and the blood splattered for a while. Severe pain spread all over his body. The energy of the 5 absolutes attacked his sea of consciousness like a flood. Ah. The Earth character strongman with a broken arm screamed, "Die." Jun Changxiao flew over, and the true Yang sword directly tore through the space, and the extremely cold sword energy pierced through. Puchy. Just see the sword light sweeping past, bringing up a head. Putang. The man fell to the ground with a bang. His head fell beside him, his expression was ferocious, and his eyes were wide open. Dead, dead. The Earth character strongman was killed. Oh my god. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 897. It turns out that bombing people is such a pleasant thing. When the Earth level strongman of the Nine Heavens continent was wiped out, all the warriors were dumbfounded. It was difficult to meet a strong man of this level on weekdays, but now he was killed by the warriors of the Starfall continent. Congratulations to the participants for killing the Earth level strongman and getting 20 points of merit. Hearing the voice of the female system, Jun Chang smiled secretly and said, "Only 20 points. It seems that the life of Martial Saint is not worth much in the plain battlefield." Girl Elder. The eyes of several disciples who were fighting with the Purple Ridge Demon King were filled with rage. They were called the 9-Star Elders. They had known each other for thousands of years and had deep feelings for each other. Now someone died in front of them, which was naturally difficult to accept. Bang. At this moment, the Purple Ridge Demon King seized the opportunity, and the purple energy turned into a fist, smashing the bearded man to the ground. He did not launch further attacks, and once again gathered strength to blast the other three. "Go, my sweetheart." Jun Changxiao's extremely shameful voice sounded again, and the Shianyu and soul suppressing tower suddenly appeared, and fell fiercely on the ground, suppressing the bearded man, and making him half dead. This guy can't fight the word ground head on, but he can play sneak attacks from behind. Moreover, with a set of top-grade equipment and a powerful treasure, it is absolutely accurate to steal. Because of the emergence of uncertain factors, in a short period of time, the strong men from the Jiutian continent ended up with 2 injuries and 1 death. They were angry. They wanted to tear Jun Changxiao into pieces. However, even though they were furious, they could only be dragged by Zilin Demon King and others, and could not focus on that guy. Boom. Ding Xing Wang appeared behind the enemy, that King Bakyu was fighting, and the 5 absolute palms were suddenly displayed. Boom. The opponent didn't notice it, and fell to the ground, and the 5 evil spirits in his body suddenly came rampant. As a result, only the Purple Ridge Demon King was left to fight against the 3 Earth character masters, and the latter had been forced to retreat step by step, unable to organize an effective counterattack. The overall situation is determined. Jun Changxiao smiled. Die. Boom. The Purple Ridge Demon King's energy exploded crazily, and fists were released all over the sky. The 5 people were unable to gain an advantage, and now the 3 Earth character masters were left, and they could only be abused and staggered back. Retreat. Goatbeard shouted angrily. 9 people lost 6, and the situation was precarious. If they fought again, they would definitely be wiped out. Swish. Swish. In an instant, the 3 Earth character masters collectively exploded, and then turned into streams of light and flew away. If a master of this level had no intention of fighting, and wanted to escape, the Purple Ridge Demon King could only watch, and could not stop him. Humph. It said coldly, a bunch of cowards. Although it was a bit difficult to fight against 5 Earth character masters, it also made the Purple Ridge Demon King very happy. Want to run? Jun Chang smiled, and the smile on his face gradually faded, and then he said grimly, "You have to ask me if I agree." Swish. He suddenly spread his arms and shouted, "Explode." Buzz, buzz, buzz. As soon as the word explode fell, the space in the air suddenly twisted, and a series of thunder arrays appeared. The 3 Earth character strongmen who were flying out saw the streamer barrier appearing in front of them, and a strong ominous sign suddenly rose in their hearts. Not good. Boom. 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 The 10 thunder arrays arranged in the air, after flashing the most dazzling light before birth, suddenly formed a chain of explosions. Crack. Crack. For a time, the thunder energy roared out, and the huge explosion shook the space to collapse, and collapse on a large area. How big was the noise caused by the explosion? The plane warriors who were thousands of miles away all felt it, so they looked at the sky in amazement, and then they widened their eyes one by one, and saw that at the end of the field of vision, the space seemed to be torn off by some force. Oh my god. What kind of power is this? Could it be that a powerful person has taken action? After the explosion, the wind howled outside the Xingqiu continent stronghold, and the violent thunder attribute spread wildly, and the entire area seemed to have turned into a thunderpool forbidden area. The warriors who were closest to the explosion area, and did not cause any disturbances were horrified, and their hands and bodies were trembling slightly. They personally witnessed the series of explosions in the thunder formation, and felt the horror brought by the residual power. So it was very good that they could still stay in the air at this time, and did not fall to the ground in fear. This, Jiangzi and others twitched at the corners of their mouths. They knew that the sect master had been going in and out of the formation hall and Zendegen to study the formation some time ago, and created a formation called the Jingshan Gathering Thunder Formation. But when the formation was activated today and produced a series of explosions, causing such terrifying destructive power, it was absolutely unexpected. Hehe. Jun Changxiao covered his face with his hands and laughed strangely. It turns out that bombing people is such a pleasant thing. The corner of Zilin Demon King's mouth twitched slightly. With the power of the explosion just now, if he were caught in it, he would be seriously injured, or even miserable. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, in the thunderous area, 3 Nine Heavens continent warriors fell down with their bodies charred and covered with wounds. Under the explosion of the thunder array, they were not only seriously injured, but also unconscious. Congratulations to the participants for severely injuring 3 Earth character warriors and gaining 60 merit points. The female system's voice sounded. Severely injured? Jun Changxiao said in surprise. This kind of shocking thunder formation, which comes from the 32 formations of Keeman, and has been improved by me, Master Zen and Shangwen's and IAO, can't actually kill the martial saint? The system said. The host's thunder formation level can't barely approach the initial level of the holy product, so it's naturally difficult to wipe out the martial saint. Okay. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, it's better if they didn't die. You can use them as bargaining chips. Having said this, he turned around. Looking at the trembling warriors in the distance, he smiled coldly and said, do you want to try it too? Swish, swish. Everyone hurriedly released the speed of reincarnation and fled as fast as they could, fearing that they would die here if they were a step slower. In the blink of an eye, the outside of the Xingqiu continent stronghold became empty. Clean up the battlefield. Jun Chang smiled. Yes. Jiangzi and others acted quickly. After a while, 8 wooden pillars were erected outside the stronghold. 8 seriously injured Jiushan continent Earth character strongmen were tied to them, and they were neatly arranged with the family with kind eyebrows and angry eyes. When these brothers came, they were dragging, as if they were going to the sky. Now they are either seriously injured, or their arms are broken, or they are burned black like charcoal, and they have long lost their strong demeanor. It is also related to the Purple Ridge Demon King that they have fallen to this point. After all, fighting 5 Earth character strongmen alone is absolutely powerful. The camera turned away. Wearing only a pair of red underwear, the Purple Ridge Demon King stood in front of the wooden stake with his hands folded. A breeze blew, blowing away his purple hair, revealing an extremely cold face. Peppa Pig tattoo on his body. Applause for the exhibitionist. P.S. It is expected to burst 20 chapters, but I don't have enough brain power and I really can't write it, so I'll stop here today. I have been saving drafts and writing, and my spirit is in a tense state every day. I feel that my body is hollowed out, and I need to relax. I also thank the readers for their awards. Don't tear up the recommendation tickets and monthly tickets. Throw them all to me. Let you tear them. Chapter 898 Hexagram Stone. The 9-star elder sent by the 9 Heavens continent had 8 severely injured and captured, and 1 was killed. They lost completely. All the warriors who were watching the fun were scared away, and they were scared to death. 9 Earth character strongmen have ended up like this. Whoever provokes the Xingqiu continent is a brainless person to die. The two kind-hearted men were severely injured, and their prestige has been established. Now that the 9-star elders have been dealt with, they just need to wait for the news to spread in the plains, causing greater shock and shock. The area of the stronghold is also more than 20 square meters larger than before. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "It seems that defeating a high-level strongman not only gives double merit points, but also double the area." At the beginning, there was only one hall in the site, which occupied most of the area. Now that it has been expanded, it can barely build a few small auxiliary rooms inside. Of course, this kind of construction and layout matters have to be handed over to Li Qingyang, and Jun Changxiao didn't think too much about it. "Master." Jiangzi held the space ring and said, "The space rings of these 9 people are full of goods." "Oh, really?" Jun Changxiao took it, and after checking it one by one, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. The space rings of the 9 Earth character strongmen are indeed full of goods. The crystal cores, medicinal materials, and minerals of various qualities alone add up to millions, and there are many martial arts secrets with different cultivation systems. Due to the plain environment, the martial arts of the 9 Heavens continent may not be suitable for the warriors of the Starfall continent. However, Jun Changxiao put all the secrets into his space ring and pulled them out of the Gangfa pavilion. He found that the exchange amount of many secrets has increased a lot. This shows that, although the martial arts of each plane are not universal, they can be used to make up the number and can be exchanged for the secrets in the Gangfa pavilion. This is very interesting. Jiang Gaosheng grinned. Shangguans in IAO has been creating secrets, but the speed is still slow. Being in a battlefield with hundreds of planes, as long as they snatch their secrets, any martial arts in the Gangfa pavilion can be exchanged at will. HMM. Jun Changxiao found dozens of crystal clear hexagonal stones in the space ring. He took them in his hand, released his spiritual thoughts and integrated them, and found that they stored very pure spiritual energy, so he was surprised. It has more energy than natural spiritual stones. The system said, 10 times stronger. 10 times? Jun Changxiao's eyes widened, which means that one stone can be 10 natural spiritual stones. It seems that the overall strength of the 9 Heavens continent is much higher than that of the Starfall continent, so it has produced stronger spiritual stones. It may not be called spiritual stones in that world. Yes. This kind of 6-sided spiritual stone is called the 6-pointed star stone in the 9 Heavens continent. It is one of the important resources for warriors to practice, and is extremely rare. As long as it can provide spiritual energy to speed up the practice, it doesn't matter what it is called. Jun Changxiao didn't get entangled in the name, and said with shining eyes, "You can extort some of this stuff to make yourself and your disciples improve their cultivation faster. The energy in the 6-pointed star stone is abundant and pure. If you use it for practice, the realm will definitely improve quickly." "Master," Ding Xingwang said, 8 Earth characters were captured, and 1 was killed. The 9 Heavens continent will definitely not give up, and will send strong men to kill us. When he first entered the battlefield, he thought it was just like that. After several consecutive battles, he saw that the Emperor level was everywhere and the Saint level was as numerous as dogs, and he really realized that this place was not simple. So we must be fully prepared. Jun Changxiao walked out of the stronghold, offering small flags, and said, "When they come, they must pay the ransom obediently, instead of blatantly robbing people." Swish, swish, swish. The stream of light danced and scattered around. Buzz, buzz. After a while, 10 shocking thunder formations were set up. Some existed on the ground, and some were suspended in the air, covering Siamei Nomu and others. This formation evolved from the 32 formations of Keeman is really powerful. The space shattered by the Purple Ridge Demon King and several Earth character strongmen did not shake the foundation and fail, and it could also produce a strong explosion. Jun Changxiao did not hide the thunder array in the space, but stood openly around it. The array barriers were connected in series, forming a scene that seemed real and illusory. The meaning was very simple. I put the hostages in the thunder array. If you don't pay the ransom, then they will all be blown up. This is very particular. Jun Changxiao had just finished it and returned to the base. After that, he saw that the space above the outside was slightly distorted, and dozens of powerful warriors appeared out of thin air. The leader was a middle-aged man with a majestic appearance, wearing a leather suit, with a gem-studded sword hanging around his waist, and a mighty momentum all over his body. As for the more than 20 warriors standing behind, their strength was also at the ground level. Hoo-hoo. Dozens of people were suspended in the air, and the aura formed was very explosive. Ding Xingwan transmitted the voice. Master, the guy standing in the front, his strength may have reached the peak martial saint level. Jun Changxiao also noticed it. He sat on a chair in front of the hall, put one leg up, and said loudly, from the Nine Heavens continent? The majestic middle-aged man glanced at the people with angry eyes who were trapped in the gap of the formation, and then glanced at the earth character strongman who was wiped out, frowned slightly and said, you are very courageous, daring to kill people from my Nine Heavens continent. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, I had no choice. City Lord. The old man standing behind the majestic middle-aged man whispered, I will go and rescue Sima Yunmu and others. The middle-aged man stopped him and said, the formations arranged around are extraordinary, don't mess around. My friend. Jun Changxiao said, I can see that you are a reasonable person, and I also like to talk about reason. Why don't we talk calmly? How to talk? The middle-aged man said. Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together and said, it's understandable that your people want to capture wanted criminals to make merit points. It's also understandable that they can't beat them and aren't captured by me, right? The middle-aged man was silent. Not only did they fail to capture the wanted criminals, but they were also imprisoned. The face of the Jiushan continent was completely lost by Sima Yunmu and others. And Xingxiao. He swore at the base that he could rescue people, but 8 were captured and 1 was killed. A group of guys who are more likely to cause trouble than to do good. Jun Chang smiled and said, these 10 are all powerful people of the earth. It is not easy for them to achieve what they have today. I did not harm their lives, because I thought that God has mercy on them. So, the middle-aged man said coldly, does this city lord have to thank you? No need to thank me. Jun Chang smiled and took out the 6-pointed starstone and said, just use this thing to redeem it. The middle-aged man's face suddenly darkened. This kid said he was talking about reason, but he was blackmailing me after all this trouble. Jun Chang smiled and said, if you feel sorry for this kind of thing and are unwilling to redeem it, they will die immediately. He was definitely not joking. As long as he thought about it, the thunder array exploded, and Sima Yunmu and others were seriously injured and unconscious, and they would definitely be blown into meat paste. Are you threatening the city lord? Anger appeared in the middle-aged man's eyes. Jun Changxiao spread his hands and said, the opportunity has been given. You decide their life or death. Of course. If you think you are strong enough to snatch people away from the thunder array, why not give it a try? Buzz. Jun Changxiao had just finished speaking when the thunder array arranged around Sima Yunmu and others suddenly flashed with light, and the powerful thunder attribute spread out wantonly, as if a big explosion would occur at any time. The faces of the warriors of Jiushan continent changed in shock. They also saw that the formation blatantly displayed around was a bit strong, but they didn't expect that the momentum would be so strong. The middle-aged man frowned, and after a brief thought, he said, how many hexagram stones can redeem them? Chapter 899. See you tomorrow. The majestic middle-aged man was named Demo Shangsheng, a powerful city lord in Jiushan continent. As for Sima Yunmu and Xingxiao, they were his subordinates. Jiushan continent was the same as Chihei continent. Every 5 years, a large force would be sent to the battlefield. This time, it happened to be the turn of City Lord Mo. Hundreds of years ago, he had brought his men to settle there. It should have been a relaxing and pleasant thing, but so many of his subordinates were defeated by a little-known Xinjiang continent. Mo Shangsheng was very irritable and depressed. He could even imagine how embarrassing it would be when this matter spread in the plain battlefield. Especially when the news was spread back to Jiushan continent, it would inevitably be used by the enemy for propaganda, and then ridiculed himself. If Jun Changxiao had not been sitting in the safe zone, Mo Shangsheng would have been furious and abused him 1,000 times. Calm down, calm down. The thunder array arranged on this continent is a bit strong. If I can't control my emotions, my 10 men will definitely be in trouble. Although the overall strength of the Nine Heavens continent is higher than that of the Falling Star continent, the Earth character strongmen are also among the top strongmen. Let alone the death of 10, even the death of 1 is painful. What's more, Mo Shang also has enemies and opponents in his own territory. If he dies in the plain battlefield, what can he use to compete with them after returning? Therefore, after a brief consideration, Mo Shang chose to compromise and agreed to exchange resources for the 10 captured people. It turns out to be called the Six-Pointed Starstone. Jun Changxiao also knew the name of this stone, so he touched his chin and said, 1 million per head. 1 million? Mo Shang said in a deep voice, this city lord can't take out so much. 1 million for 1, 10 for 10, this is definitely a huge number. Even if it can be taken out, it is equivalent to bleeding directly. This seat is not an unreasonable person, just give in. Jun Changxiao said, 990,000 per head. Mo Shang's mouth twitched. You are so reasonable, and you only reduced it by 10,000? Mo Shang said with a sullen face, boy, this city lord is negotiating with you very seriously. I'm serious too. Jun Changxiao put his chin on the back of his hand and said, we are not doing business, there is no bargaining. 900,000 heads per person. This concession is not bad, at least 100,000 heads are reduced. However, Mo Shang still can't accept it. After all, giving away 9 million heads will definitely hurt his bones. Of course. Jun Chang smiled and said, if you can't take out so many six-pointed starstones, you can also use medicinal materials, minerals, treasures, weapons and so on to make up for it. I won't mind. Mo Shang was almost angry and injured. As the lord of a large city that dominated the Jiushan continent, he had never been so moved. Boy, an old man next to him shouted angrily, my city lord can talk to you calmly, which is enough to give you face. Don't be ungrateful. Lord City Lord. Jun Chang smiled and squinted his eyes and said, your subordinate doesn't seem to know what the situation is now. What situation? The hostages are in his hands and can be put to death at any time. Mo Shang frowned and said, six-pointed starstones are very rare as a martial arts resource for land cultivation. The amount you mentioned is difficult for this city lord to take out. How much can you take? 100,000. 100,000 per person? 10 people. Forget it. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, there is no sincerity at all. I'd better kill them all. Buzz. As soon as the voice fell, the lightning array standing outside the stronghold flashed dazzling light again, as if it was only a little away from exploding. The warriors of Jiushan continent were a little panicked and even prepared to retreat. Mo Shang suppressed his anger and said, little guy, judging from the area of your stronghold, you should have just started. If you kill them, this city lord will send people to seal off this place and fight you to the death. Are you sure it's worth it? Jun Changxiao was silent. Is he telling himself that he is going to break the pot? Mo Shang sneered and said, according to the rules of the plane, if the base does not reach a certain size, there is a time limit inside. When you are sent out, how can you return alive? So, Jun Chang smiled and said, this seat is very urgent now. If you don't quickly take the ransom to redeem them, you can only kill them. At worst, we will die together. The time limit of the base has no effect on him at all, because he just needs to return to the eternal ancient sect within the time limit. Mo Shang didn't know. He thought that he could use this as a threat to take the initiative in the negotiation. What's more, Jun Chang smiled and said, this seat has already killed a strong man of the earth character in your continent. The feud is completely formed. What's the harm in killing 10 more? It's better to resolve the enemy than to make it. Mo Shang's tone gradually softened and said, as long as you release them, the previous incident will be treated as if it never happened. How your Xinjiang continent acts in the plain battlefield, my Jiushan continent will not interfere. Do you think this kind of lie to a 3-year-old child will be believed by this seat? Jun Chang smiled. Mo Shang said confidently, this city lord is the city lord of Xingxiao city in Jiushan continent, and his words are always true. Jun Changxiao fell into deep thought, as if he was moved by his words. Okay. He patted the armrest and said, I believe you. One price, 200,000 heads per person. From 1 million to 200,000. This is definitely a big concession, but Mo Shangsheng was a little overwhelmed. It seems that, after talking for so long, he still has to pay the ransom for the person. Nonsense. Jun Changxiao is not a person who changes his principles casually. Since he has done blackmail, no matter how much or how little, he must extort it. Lord City Lord. Jun Changxiao said, if you think this price is appropriate, please make the deal quickly, otherwise I'm really afraid that I will not be able to resist detonating the thunder array. Mo Shangsheng thought about it. Jiushan continent must be a world where the weak are preyed on by the strong. The weight of 10 Earth character strongmen must be not small. If they die in the plain battlefield, you will suffer a great loss. Jun Changxiao said. Besides, I was able to capture so many of your people, so I'm not a soft persimmon that can be easily squeezed. If you really want to give it a try, you may still suffer losses. Why don't you just hand over 2 million hexagram stones? It's good for you, me, and everyone else. Mo Shangsheng frowned. Buzz. The thunder array was still flashing, and the thunder attribute in the air was getting stronger and stronger, which forced him not to delay time, and not to think too much. Okay. Mo Shangsheng said, 2 million. Pay the money first, and then release the people. Jun Chang smiled. Mo Shangsheng's mouth twitched. This kind of thing has happened before, but he has never been led by the other party like this. I'm the leader of the most powerful sect in the Starfall continent. A gentleman's words are always true, so please rest assured. Jun Chang smiled. Swish. A unique space ring fell on the edge of the stronghold. Mo Shangsheng suppressed his heartache and said with difficulty, there are 2 million hexagram stones inside. Jun Changxiao waved his hand. Zilin Demon King immediately stepped out, picked up the ring, and hurried back to the base. It seems that he was also worried that the other party would take the opportunity to attack. The city lord is a straightforward person. I hope we can cooperate next time. After counting and confirming the number, Jun Changxiao smiled. Although he didn't extort 10 million, 2 million hexagram stones are enough to rival tens of millions of natural spirit stones. People, be content and you will always be happy. Swish. Swish. Dozens of thunder arrays suddenly dissipated, and the explosive aura that existed gradually disappeared. Master Jun is really a trustworthy person. Swish. Swish. As soon as the thunder array was removed, several strong men from the Nine Heavens continent flew over and rescued the unconscious Sumoinumu and others. Until they returned to their original positions, they all glared at Jun Changxiao and others in the base. At the beginning, they were afraid to use force because they had a hostage in the hands of the enemy. Now that they have rescued him, they are naturally fearless. Jun Changxiao stood up and bowed, saying, it's getting late. We'll take our leave first. Take our leave. Mo Shangsheng and the warriors of Jiushan continent were stunned. Snap. Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers. A vortex of light gradually emerged under the steps of the hall. Mo Shangsheng's eyes widened immediately. Is this a teleportation array to the outside world? No. The Xinjiang continent has only a small area and does not meet the standards at all. How could there be a teleportation device to leave the plane? The warriors behind him were also confused. In their opinion, in order to achieve two-way teleportation, the base must at least be developed to the scale of a town. Swish. Swish. Lukai and Qian, Hiwudi and others entered one by one. Jun Changxiao was the last one to come over. Before teleporting, he waved to Mo Shangsheng and said, see you tomorrow. Swish. The person disappeared out of thin air and the vortex gradually dissipated. Mo Shangsheng and many Nine Heavens continent warriors gathered outside the base, still in a state of confusion, obviously unable to adapt to the fact that the base has not been developed and the warriors of the Falling Star continent can be teleported out. P.S. I have been writing and saving drafts during this period. After the explosion yesterday, I feel like I'm completely collapsed today, so there are only 2 chapters. I will adjust my state and mentality. See you tomorrow. Chapter 900, Ania breaks through. Jun Changxiao, who got the ransom, led his men back to the Wangu sect. Just as he came lightly, he left lightly, waving his hand without taking away a cloud. Mo Shangsheng and a group of Nine Heavens continent warriors looked at the empty stronghold, and they were stunned for most of the day. What is this? The plain battlefield portal in the system mall is a bug, and Jun Changxiao can rely on it to come and go freely here. Is there a time limit for the stronghold? Or send someone to block it outside? I will run away. After pretending to be tough, what can you do to me, city lord? A strong man said. What should we do now? Mo Shangsheng suppressed his anger and pain, and said, return to the stronghold. After giving the hexagram stone, he had considered redeeming the person, taking the initiative, and then finding a way to get it back. As a result, the person just slipped away under his nose, which is completely unreasonable. Go, go, go. Mo Shangsheng led his men away in great irritability, and at the same time, prepared to embarrass himself in the plain. Sure enough, in just one night, the news about the Nine Heavens continent's ruthless face and the capture of the 9 stars by the falling star continent spread like wildfire on the plain battlefield. For a time, all the plain masters were discussing it, and all were surprised. The 11 Earth character masters of the 9 Heavens continent in the first echelon were defeated by a plane that was not well known. It was incredible. Could it be a rumor? Absolutely true. Moreover, 3 warriors who were wanted for killing appeared in this falling star continent yesterday. Many people rushed over and witnessed the battle with their own eyes. There was a guy with purple hair and exposed body who was really fierce. He single-handedly challenged 5 Earth character masters. What kind of plane is this falling star continent? How can it have such a strong strength? Who knows? It's as if it appeared out of thin air on the battlefield. The 9 Heavens continent suffered such a big loss, and so many Earth character masters were captured. It will definitely not give up. Yesterday's battle was destined to be discussed on the battlefield for a while. As for Mo Shangsheng's redemption, because there were no other warriors present, the outside world did not know. At this time, the most fortunate party was naturally the Chihei continent. After all, after Shen Yuanxi was severely injured, he had been clamoring to cause trouble to Jun Changxiao, palace master. At this moment in the main hall, an elder of the Bahei Palace frowned and said, this Xinjiang continent can make Jiushan continent suffer a setback. It is really a bit of a threat. Hong Yao sat in the first seat and frowned and said, fortunately, I didn't go to trouble first, otherwise the end would be even worse. He couldn't even handle Jiushan continent, so he didn't think he could solve it. Does it mean that I can only admit defeat? An elder said unhappily. So many disciples died, and several elders were also severely injured. Anyone with blood in his veins couldn't bear this. Hong Yao sneered and said, the Jiushan continent will definitely not be done with Jiuxing Leo being captured. I believe it won't take long before Mo Shangsheng, who is guarding the stronghold, will be alerted. He has already been alerted and rushed over yesterday. Unfortunately, it was still useless. In the end, he still used 2 million 6-pointed star stones to redeem the person. It's great. Jun Changxiao smiled as he sat in the study. This feeling of pretending to be cool and then running away is really exciting. If he were in the Xinjiang continent, he might be afraid. After all, the monk can run away, but the temple cannot. But it's different in the plain battlefield. If you have the ability, come and fight. Wait a few days, then go in. Jun Changxiao murmured. This time, he took people to the plain battlefield, not only to avenge his great hatred, but also to expand the area of the stronghold, so he decided to go in and play whenever he had time in the future. Master, Xiao Lang said with a puzzled look on his face, the red light on my body is gone again. Jun Changxiao said, this kind of light only exists in the plain battlefield, and it disappears after coming out. Is that so? Xiao Lang understood. Of course, the so-called disappearance is not really disappearing. If he returns to the battlefield again, he will definitely enter the wanted red name status, and it will take at least some time to completely wash it off. King Guiyang and others have a real combat experience in the battlefield of life and death, and it should be easier for them to break through the emperor level. Jun Changxiao said secretly. At present, the value of the plain battlefield is that it can provide a channel for the sect disciples to become stronger, although it will be very dangerous after entering. Hoo. Suddenly, in the inner courtyard disciples room, there was a momentum of advancement. Jun Changxiao released his spiritual thoughts and said, is RN, are you going to break through? Hoo-hoo. The momentum of advancement swept through the inner courtyard wantonly, and all the busy disciples were alarmed. Brother Yi is about to break through. It's too fast to enter the martial emperor. Not long after returning from the battlefield, Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others who were in retreat also noticed it. Combined with the emperor level cultivation they had obtained with the Surge's talisman, they more or less understood the breadth of breakthrough. The momentum brought by the breakthrough will infect others, provided that the infected person is just at the breakthrough point. Half an hour later, the wave of advancement gradually weakened, and everything returned to calm. Yi Xingchen, who was sitting cross-legged in the room, slowly opened his eyes and murmured expressionlessly, "Breakthrough. From a useless body to the current martial emperor, it only took 4 or 5 years. The growth rate is much faster than in the previous life," but he was not happy at all. A trip to the plain battlefield made Yi Xingchen understand that, although he had entered the martial emperor back then, he was just in a corner. The outside world is actually very big and there are many strong people. In the last life, I stood at the highest peak of the Xingyan continent. In this life, I must stand higher and see farther. Yi Xingchen's breakthrough was expected, so Jun Changxiao was not too surprised, and began to think about the next thing. 5 years later, the Xingyan continent will enter the battlefield, so the expansion of the base area must be kept in mind, and strive to reach the scale of a city when they enter. Of course, after the base reaches a certain scale, the merit shop will also be opened. Jun Changxiao is now very curious about what good things are sold inside. And Su Xiaomo, although he has mixed into the Taixu unholy sect very well, he is only an outer sect after all, so he must find a way to help him advance to the inner sect disciple. He can use the identity of Junshan Elder to do something. 2 things need to be done with both hands. Jun Changxiao made a decision. After half a month, he will let Zitangsu and Baikyu enter the plain battlefield again, find trouble with the Chihei continent and Lingayan continent, and strive to expand the base. As for Su Xiaomo, he needs to wait for news, and the best time. With a temporary plan for the 2 things, Jun Changxiao began to think about how he could break through from the half-saint to the martial saint faster. In fact, after the 2 epic tasks were settled, he had thought about it. The half-saint was different from the emperor level. It was divided into grades and peaks. It was an absolutely independent level of cultivation. How could he improve himself? Moreover, because he had the system, breaking through the martial saint was also a great realm. Would there be epic tasks that must be completed before he could advance? The system said, each level will naturally have epic tasks when it breaks through the barrier. Jun Changxiao said, I broke through the peak level of a realm, and the epic task was triggered, but the half-step martial saint has no grades and peaks. How can I trigger the epic task? When the host feels that he is about to break through the martial saint, it will be triggered. The system said, aren't you talking nonsense? Jun Changxiao also knew that he was about to break through, and the epic task would be triggered, but the key was how to have the feeling of breaking through the martial saint. Relying on practice and perception? This is not impossible. After all, there are 5 elements and various mental methods, but will it be a bit slow? The system said, the value of martial arts lies in perseverance. If the host wants to eat until he becomes a fat man in one go, he can realize it in his dream after a good sleep. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.